Welcome everybody. Hope everybody's having a good Monday. I know it's one of the days of the week. Whether it's a good day of the week is a different question, but it is one of the days of the week. Flat Earth is truly dead. Well, I did Flat Earth on Thursday. So, you know, I figured I would do this topic. So you think the original creation point spawned from nothing? No. But I agree. I do think that flat earthers are going extinct. I think that that's... Apparently, yeah. All right, let's bring up our first guest. We do have one already. Let's talk to Andre. Andre, how's it going?
Hey, how's it going? Oh, that's not how you pronounce my name.
Okay, how do I pronounce your name?
It's Andre.
Andre, okay. Well, fine, fair enough.
What's your name?
You can call me Blitz. Do you believe that the Earth was created?
Nice to meet you, Blitz.
Likewise. Do you believe that the Earth was created?
Do I believe the Earth was created?
Mm-hmm.
Yeah, sure.
Okay. By who?
By God?
Okay, why do you think so?
It says it in the scriptures.
Sure, but lots of things say lots of things. It doesn't mean that we have to believe them all the time. Like Harry Potter says that Voldemort came back from the dead.
Well,
because he had Horcruxes.
So which other source talks about the creation of the Earth?
The entire field of planetary astrophysics?
Yeah, what do they say about how did they say it was made?
Through gravitational collapse of a protoplanetary disk.
Okay. And where do they get that knowledge from?
Observations of the world around us, using the scientific method.
Great. You're almost there.
Mm-hmm. So
now,
the model that I'm perhaps ascribing
wait,
to
one second. I'm coming.
You sure? Don't do that.
Do not
come. What?
You're good. Look, so on the one hand we have scriptures, on the other hand we have observational astrophysics. Why should we believe scriptures rather than observational astrophysics?
Yeah, I mean, let's just skip all the way down to the end of the line. So, where does the materials that were made to create the world come from?
You mean like where did everything come from?
Yeah.
Well, I don't think that there was nothing and then there was something.
Okay.
So I don't think that there was a coming from, if you will.
So yeah, so do you think that the universe just already had a planet and sun?
No, I already explained how the planet formed.
No, not planet Earth. I mean like all the other planets.
Those planets formed in the same way.
Okay, great. Well, I have a huge problem with your way of thinking.
Which is
that it's false.
Why should I think it's false?
Well, the reason why I believe your way of thinking is false is because somebody said I'm trolling. How? I didn't even say anything that was funny.
You're right, you didn't say anything that was funny. Go ahead.
I flash people? What the hell are they saying?
This is a troll from CBJ's Live. Fair enough. Anything to say for yourself, Andre?
Okay, anyways. So, yeah, there's a huge problem with your way of thinking. A huge problem.
Which is?
Is that you actually don't know the truth.
Okay. Yeah, I'm pretty sure he was a troll. I think he was just like trying to waste as much time as he could. Let's talk to Josh with an X.
Yo, what's up, man?
Hey, Josh with an X. Is that the correct pronunciation of your
Yeah, you
name?
can just call me Josh.
Okay, cool. Josh, do you believe that the Earth was created?
Somewhat in a way, right? Like I believe God created the universe from like ex nihilo, but like from that process, like the Earth could have been created from like natural processes.
Okay, so that's fair. I understand what you're saying. Typically, when I use the word created, I mean something like, I mean to distinguish it from like forming, which is to say that, like, you know, I would say that the Earth formed. I wouldn't say that the Earth was created. Creation implies some sort of intention, perhaps, but that's fine. So why do you think that the universe was created ex nihilo, or nihilo, I guess is the more accurate pronunciation?
I would say like I couldn't really grasp that the universe would have been in a state from like pure nothing to like existing.
Why is that the only other option?
Yeah, I mean, I don't really think an infinite regress is possible. And even if it were the case that like
Why
there
is
was
that the only
another
other option?
universe, sorry,
Why is that the only other option?
that had to be created.
No, so, you know, first you said, you know, I don't grasp how the universe could come from nothing. Okay, but that's not the only other option. It's not like either it was created ex nihilo by like a divine being or it came from nothing. And then you said, well, I don't think that an infinite regress makes sense. But then, okay, why is that the only other option? So it seems like, so what you're doing is you're giving me reasons why you don't think it's one way, but you're not giving me reasons why you do think that it is, you know, created ex nihilo, say.
Yeah, I mean, in a way, the reason I would hold to this is because like God could create, like he has the ability to create ex nihilo. So via
Does he?
that, like it would be possible. Yeah,
Are you sure?
yeah. If he can create if he can create ex nihilo, then I don't see an issue.
Well, okay, so what picture of God do you have? Do you have a picture of God that's timeless? Do you have a picture of God that coexists with space and time and then just created the matter in it? What's your picture of God here?
Yeah, so I mean, I'm not even like a classical theist actually, because I'm a Muslim.
That's
So
fine.
we don't
I'm
hold to
just asking you what your
classical
picture
theism.
of God is here.
Yeah, so we would say that he's like transcendent. Um,
Did God create time in this view? Is time part of the creation ex nihilo?
yeah, he does act temporally as well.
So was there ever a state of affairs where God existed without time?
Oh, that wouldn't be like when we say there's a state he existed before time, since he's
Oh, I said
atemporal.
without time.
Oh yeah, sure.
Okay, so then how does God, existing in an atemporal state, how does God do anything?
Pardon, like how does he do what?
Anything. Because to do something is to fulfill a process that takes time. If there's no time, it seems like God can't do anything.
Sure, I mean you can say that he wills eternally, like everything he does
So then,
temporally is going to be like an eternal will, right?
if it's
But then when
willed
it comes to,
temporally, then
like,
it seems like
creating,
the world would have existed eternally.
no, so he can will, right? But it wouldn't be actualized in the exact moment.
So there was a before it was actualized and then an after it was actualized, even though there was no time?
No, the way it would work, right, is like let's say God willed world A, right? But that will would
Eternally.
just be, it would just be eternal, right? So then in that case, right, he knows he's gonna actualize world A, and then when he does so, that would be a temporal change.
How is there a temporal change if there's no time?
Just like he can do, so, like he can do actions temporally, right? So with
Right, but there's
that,
no time, so how can he do anything tempor or non-temporally?
most likely we could say he created that system.
It seems like time would need to exist in order for the act of creation to happen.
Oh, you're saying that he needs time to do actions, right?
Yeah, I mean that's what an action is. An action is a change from A to B, right?
Yeah, you might be.
At
Yeah,
least that's like the
somewhat, yeah.
traditional understanding of time.
Yeah, I mean, it would be somewhat hard to grasp the concept, but
It seems almost incoherent, honestly.
But what's the contention that like he can create like just from pure nothingness?
Well, the contention is that if you have pure nothingness, like i.e. no space, no time, then it seems like there's no creation that can be done. There's there's no anything that can be done, in fact. And so, like, if I think that you could perhaps make the case that if God existed eternally in time, and time has always existed, but the universe didn't always exist, God just kind of existed eternally in time, but there was no universe otherwise, then God could make a universe. Fine, I guess that's probably not a problem, because then at least there's time to do things. But without time, I don't see how anything can be done at all.
Sure, I mean, it's also like I feel like it's somewhat hard to comprehend because again, if God is transcendent again, then it would be that he sees everything at once. So it wouldn't be a thing where like at one moment he's eternally not creating and then another moment he's eternally creating or like
Well, there
he
are no
did create.
moments, right?
Yeah, it wouldn't be I don't think it would be like that.
It's just, I mean, you can understand, like, perhaps there's some way to make sense of this, but you can understand why I would be very, very skeptical of someone saying, this guy, or this guy, God did something even though there was no time in which to do it. Like that, I think that probably is the kind of thing that's impossible. You know, at least with, with an understanding of actions.
Yeah, it wouldn't be like him changing with like his essence, but it would just be that he does the act temporally in a way that we're not aware of.
I'm not saying that he's changing. I'm just saying that there is a change that happens, right? The universe goes from just being God to God, and I shouldn't say the universe. Reality goes from just being God to God plus the universe. And so that's some sort of change. And, you know, as far as I'm concerned, like, the change can't really happen unless there's time in which it can happen. Like, that just seems like
I understand your point.
It seems like it just, like, this is the kind of thing that, like, people say, oh, God was timeless and then God created the universe. But, like, if you think about it enough, like, it just doesn't make any sense.
Yeah, somewhat to your point. It would just be that I don't think we can like grasp that idea. It would just be like God, since he's atemporal, we couldn't imagine what it would be like before he created the universe. It could have been just like eternal.
Well, but there is no
nothingness and-
before, right?
Right, that's the point. We can't really describe it in a way, I would say.
But look, so, and like maybe there is some, like I said, maybe there is some way to understand this. But if this is the kind of thing where it is fundamentally, or it is incomprehensible to humans, I just don't know why we would ever believe it.
Yeah, I understand what you're saying. Yeah, but like my thing about creationism, are you implying by creationism like him creating everything, or like him creating the earth?
It's
the universe?
different for each person. I think that all of it is false.
Okay.
I think that we probably can account for all of the things that you would like to account for that require a god. I think that we can account for it without such a presupposition.
Yeah.
And the accounting that God gives you seems like it leaves open way bigger questions than just, you know, where did the universe come from? Like, okay, maybe you resolve where did the universe come from. Now you have to explain, A, what is God and how does it do actions if there's no time? That seems like a way bigger problem.
Yeah, I understand what you're saying. Yes, like do you also meet like a lot of like young Earth creationists?
Sometimes. They tend to be flat earthers quite frequently as well.
Yeah, I know about that because I used to like debate some flat earthers, bro. You know, they talk about the firmament and stuff like that. It's
Yeah.
not fun, but yeah, but it was a fun talk with you, man. But
Yeah,
thank you.
likewise. Thanks for being here. Take care.
Yeah, no problem.
Young guy, but I think that he seems like he has a good head on his shoulders. He was thinking about things in a reasonable way. All right, let's read some super chats, and then we will move on to our next guest. From Lycon with the 200 yen. Hello, Mr. Dr. Blitz. Praise the lava lamp. Praise the lava lamp. And from Tim Davidson with the $2. You can't handle the truth. A few good men. I get that that's a quote from A Few Good Men. Did somebody say that? All right, well, that's all we got. Let's bring up our next guest, the GOAT. The one, the only, the GOAT. The GOAT, how's it going?
Hello. How you doing?
I'm doing all right. The GOAT. Do you believe that the Earth was created?
Yes.
Okay. By who?
Question. I want to ask you a question. In fact, not that yours wasn't important, so I apologize. I think that what I'm arguing for more than by who that it is. I don't know if that makes sense. Meaning, I'm not here trying to argue that it was John or Mark or or Luke, but I'm just saying that it was created by someone or something. That
Okay.
makes sense.
Yeah, why should I believe that?
Yeah. I'm kind of trying to not make you repeat the same argument of God having to, in order for God to create something, there must be time, and if he was without time, then therefore, it's like, okay, but I'm just trying to, I don't know if I hear myself, but more importantly, listen, this is like the basic, I hear myself. Do you hear an echo from me?
No, I don't hear an echo from you.
Okay, it's a little weird. Anyways, so listen, so like in you and I, in our daily basis, when we use anything, like we're using this mobile device, I'm lying on bed, there's a chair in front of me. So these things are here for a purpose. These things are here because there were people with the intent of selling them for whatever their purpose was, to utilize
Sure.
them. And so whatever else that I use that I don't have understanding of, perhaps, like, if I didn't know what the sedimentary rocks process was, or how rocks are formed, but so that I'm trying to use that same concept that if X, Y, and Z, meaning the chair, the phone, and the bed, was created by someone with intent of doing something, then the things that I'm using that are natural should be caused by and created by something that who had his own intended purposes of.
So how do you, what criteria do you use to evaluate whether or not something was created intentionally?
What criteria do I use to evaluate if something was intentfully created or non-intentfully?
Yeah, I mean, like, so we can just say created means that it was formed with intention, and say we could just use the word formed if we mean formed without intention.
Yeah, good question. I'm a believer of whatever exists has a purpose, whether or not if you are able to determine or not.
So on what grounds do you have to come to that conclusion? I
mean, we can say either in deterministic view that it always was going to be the case because it was caused by something else, therefore its purpose was to be inevitable. I don't know.
I think that purpose probably is presupposing the thing that you're trying to explain or that you're trying to justify, because purpose is something that's generally given by something with a mind, right? So if you just assume everything has purpose, then you're just assuming that everything was created by something with a mind, which, that's the thing you're trying to justify right now.
Like, listen, let's play a little game. Okay, and I will do my best to answer the questions for you of that, why it's not the case. Give me an example of something that you believe that doesn't have a purpose.
The uranium found in zircon crystals.
You see, okay. Now you see, because of course you have a PhD and I'm still in the process of getting my BA. There's a big gap between you and I. But if you had said something, for instance, uranium, I think it's some kind of lead, right? That's found in something.
No, uranium is not lead.
Okay.
Uranium is a radioactive atom.
Okay, there you go. So if I literally search right now the radioactive atom to what function it has, I will then therefore.
Well, I'm talking specifically about the uranium found in zircon crystals.
Right. So listen. So if I can just quickly Google search of found in crystals of the uranium, that whatever its functionality is. Let me tell you this: any object or thing that you're saying is what its function is, its purpose.
So you said that we were going to play a game where I was going to give you a thing and you would tell me its purpose, but you're not doing that.
Okay, well, I guess I lost right off the cuff, okay? But the point here that I'm trying to allude to is that...
Go ahead.
But the point that I'm trying to allude here is that if I had known the nature of this uranium in these particular crystals that you're referring to that I don't know of, that I can perhaps...
I can explain it. So zircon crystals are just a kind of crystal. They're zirconium, silicon, and oxygen. And sometimes there's like a little tiny bit of uranium that's found inside these crystals, replacing the zirconium atom. So it's like a little bit of an impurity. The thing is the impurity is so slight that we don't mine zircon crystals to obtain uranium, right? This is not a useful way of getting uranium. And we don't really use zircon crystals for anything. I mean, like, I'm sure that they have some industrial applications or whatever, but like it's not particularly like a useful industrial thing. So the fact that there's uranium in zircon crystals just seems like a natural consequence of the way that these...
How do you spell that type of crystal you're saying?
Zircon. Zircon.
Zircon.
O-N.
Okay, go ahead.
So it seems like the presence of uranium in the zircon crystals is, you know, it's not really, it doesn't really have a purpose. Like, it's just there.
Okay, so someone in the chat, and as well I'm reading, has said that they do something along with having to do with radiation.
Yeah, so one thing that humans have found is that we can figure out how old a zircon crystal is by measuring how much uranium is in the zircon crystal and how much lead is in the zircon crystal, because the uranium decays into lead.
Right. So there you go.
But how is that its purpose? That's a use that we found for it, but how is that its purpose?
So that's what I'm trying to like get at. So, for instance, like a knife, right? You can use it for various things: to defend yourself, to attack someone, to cut something for food. It has different functionalities, right? So, I'm essentially saying is that nothing. So, like, for instance, the uranium that you're saying we found a use of it. That is its essential purpose. Intrinsically.
So you think that the reason why there is uranium in zircon crystals is so that we could figure out how old the zircon crystals are?
Well, that's a little circular the way you've worded it, but I think that yes, but in other words, I am saying something that has its function is its intrinsic purpose to
function
have
and purpose are not the same thing.
Well, but I'm saying that
and to be clear, uranium doesn't have any function to begin with, right? The uranium in the zircon crystal doesn't have a function. We measure the amount of uranium in a thing, and then that tells us about how old that zircon crystal is. But it's not like the kind of thing that has a function. It doesn't do anything.
Okay, so I guess you're saying things could be created without a purpose, right?
Well, I think things can form without a purpose, absolutely.
Things can form without a purpose. Okay, I have a question for you. Even when things form, right, they need a prior set of properties or actions to have been placed for it to occur, right?
Sure.
So, but you do agree that there are a set of properties in the universe?
Yeah, the universe has properties, I agree.
So then why are we now forfeiting from the previous statement that there must have been a prior cause for having set of properties to exist if the universe itself has properties, that the universe should have been caused by something?
I don't see how a thing having properties means that it must have been caused.
But you and I just agreed to my first question saying that do you and I agree that something that has set of properties must have had prior things or a cause to have created it? No.
Well,
like if I want to create a chair,
if that's what you said, if it sounded like I agreed with that, then it's because I misunderstood you. So
what is the
I
answer
agree
to
that the reason why uranium exists in zircon is because of the conditions that gave rise to the zircon crystal forming. So there was some, the lava that it was solidifying out of had certain properties. It had a certain amount of dissolved uranium salts or whatever. And as it was solidifying, the properties of the lava and the surrounding environment or whatever allowed for this zircon crystal to form with these impurities. But it doesn't seem to follow that because a thing has properties, that thing must have, been caused.
No, it must have came from other set of properties that created that thing, right? For instance, if I'm creating a chair, I need wood. If I need to create,
must have come from a different set of properties. And maybe this is just a semantics dispute, so we should, maybe we can just get around this and it's not an issue. But I'm not sure that a set of properties is the kind of thing that does creation or formation. Properties are,
but it's needed.
They're just features of things. Yeah, sure. So features of things. If something is going to form, then there will be certain conditions under which it does form, and those conditions have to be satisfied. I agree with that.
Okay. So now, sure, we can just move forward with that. Set of conditions must need to be met. So now, for properties to exist. So
no, for something to form, not for properties to exist. For something to form.
Okay, for something to exist, right?
No, for something to form.
How can something exist, or how can something form without existing?
So one could imagine something that's always existed. It would have never formed.
Oh my God. That's such an extreme, disingenuous thing to say. Give me an example of that. Give me an example of the thing that you just said.
The electron field.
And that doesn't exist?
No, it's at least existed for as long as the universe
has
existed.
My question to you, Blitz, Dr. Blitz, was to give me an example of something that was formed without existing.
I never said that there are things that have formed without existing. The point is that
Okay,
things
so
can
it's the same-
exist without forming.
Things can exist. Oh, that's true. Yeah, like the okay. Wait, like what?
Like the electron field. Just gave you an
Again,
example.
something that I don't know of what that is. So how was
I mean, we're
how
talking
did
about
it-
like fundamental stuff. The electron field, as far as we can tell, has existed for however long the universe has existed. There was never a
It's just a
time
synonym- it's
before
just
the
a
electron.
synonym?
It's not a synonym. It's just kind of a part of it. It's like a quintessential part.
Okay, I'm losing tracking here. Electron fields is just a what in the universe?
It's like a quintessential part of the
I
universe.
don't know what a quintessential is.
It means like intrinsic, essential. There's a word for it. It starts with a P. Like it's like almost a trope of it. You could just think of it as an essential part.
It can't exist without the universe, correct?
Yes.
It's dependent upon the universe. Okay.
Well, I would say it's a part of the universe, but sure.
Like it couldn't have been without the universe, right? It
You-
was.
you- yeah. So you probably can't have an electron field without a universe. Yeah.
Okay. So then I guess the value of the question still remains. So now, what my whole point was that if the electron field, whatever, you can probably keep going forward with these other things that exist, as which are quintessential, which I probably mispronounced, that within the electrical field and yada yada yada, that which is all dependent upon the universe existing, which has its own set of atoms and other properties. Now, I'm asking you, if the universe has these set of things, properties, atoms, quantum field, whatever you want to call them, what were the set of conditions that had caused these X, Y's, and Z's in the universe?
So it's not clear, and it seems like we're just kind of like equivocating a lot now. The point is if something formed, right? If something went from not existing to existing, then there must be some conditions that are satisfied in order for it to, form. But that doesn't mean that everything that exists must have formed. Therefore, it doesn't mean that everything that exists
you can't
must have
give any
had these.
example other than the universe.
I just gave you an example. The electron field. I just gave you that example. That's not a thing that we have any evidence that it formed.
Oh my God! It's not anything that has formed. I mean,
This
it did,
is something that we have no evidence that the electron field ever formed, that it went from not existing to existing.
But you don't even know when the universe was formed, right?
I don't know if the universe
If it
was
did
formed.
or did. Okay, good. So then you can't definitively say that the the electrical fields were there without being formed, because you were saying
I
it's a
never said that we can
possibility of the universe.
definitively say that. I said that unless we
Well,
know
that's
it
what
formed, then we can't say for certain that there were some properties required for it to form.
Okay, can I give another topic? One for last one.
Sure.
Okay, thank you. Now this answer is personal. You asked, why do I believe in creationism?
Mm-hmm.
I think it's a better thing to believe in than not believing in it.
How do you figure?
And it's personal because and as you and I already agreed that creationism, in kind of or what's the word that I forgot the word that requires, or rather, yeah, I forgot the word, but needs a mind, an attention, or an attention at very least. So I think it's much more interpersonal to believe that you and I and every human that we interact with in our lives, that were intended, rather some kind of fluke that you're speaking of in these crystals that just happened to be. I think it's a lot more sacred. I think it's a lot more conscious to believe in that rather not believing in it. More accountability. Also, I can't hear you all of a sudden. Are you muted?
That's my bad. Yeah, I muted myself. It may very well be true that like there's something more meaningful, something more meaningful about human existence if we believe that humans were formed with intention. That just doesn't make it true that humans are formed with intention. So like, look, I'm telling you, I can understand why you would believe it because perhaps it's meaningful for you. It just doesn't make it true.
Okay. Okay, great. And really, I never asked you. You always play this, not play. Excuse me, Dr. Blitz. You always, you and Ian are very good at giving these alternative possibilities. When someone says, "Well, it must be created," you're like, "Well, it doesn't need to be created." Well, then they say, "What is your personal?" And thank you so much for your time. What is your own personal belief, rather, I should say, that how the universe ought to be? Was it always there? Do you
Ought
believe in
to
this
be?
crunch theory, where
I don't hold a strict
you don't
position.
subscribe to one?
Yeah.
Okay.
I just don't think that we know enough.
You're taking the agnostic route.
Yep.
If you had to pick one in order to save your life, that if you had picked the right one, which one would it be?
Eternal inflation.
Internal inflation, is that where it will end up being a size of a human body again eventually, and then start all over?
No.
Which one's
It's
inflation?
where
What's that one?
inflation is the one where you have like pockets that expand forever.
So it's isn't it like a sister of infinite regression then?
It implies an infinite regress. Yeah.
Do you think infinite regress is logical?
Yeah. I don't think that. Well, logical. I don't think that there's anything illogical about it. Now, whether or not it's logical, that's a different question. But yeah, it seems like there's no issues.
Were you ever religious?
No.
Really? What does that mean? Like you just? Your
I grew up
parents
in
are
like
not?
I grew up in like a very mildly religious household, and I just never bought it.
All right, man. Well, I appreciate you. Thank you so much.
Of course. Thanks for being here.
Bye bye.
All right, let's read a super chat or two or however many there are, and then we'll move on to our next guest. There's the one from Lycon. Thank you so much for supporting me, Lycon. Everybody else hates me again. No, I'm kidding. Pretty fun to think that humans created God, so it's not God who created the universe, but the other way around, which also makes more sense. God is ontologically dependent on humans, like any fictional character. Yeah, that's a fair point. Humans, I think it is true that humans did create this. The question is, should we keep doing so? All right, we do have some guests from Discord, but don't worry, guests on TikTok, I'm going to alternate between Discord and TikTok, so you guys will get your time to shine. Don't worry. Just please be patient. Let's bring up Crepe au Grand Marnier. Did I pronounce that right? It feels very French. Crepe au Grand Marnier.
Yep, I have French actually.
Oh, okay. So I did okay?
Sorry, what?
Did I pronounce your name not horribly?
Oh.
can
you repeat?
Yeah.
I think you did, yeah.
Okay. I'm glad that it wasn't horrible.
Crêpe au Grand Marnier.
So I will not. I'm gonna anglicize it. You'll have to forgive me if I try to pronounce crepe in the way that you just did. It will be horrible.
Don't worry.
So yeah, I'm not gonna try.
About it.
I'm not gonna try. So, do you believe that the Earth was created?
I did not long ago actually, but now I changed my mind on it.
Okay. Well, that is. I mean, I'm sure that there is a lovely story here, but I am looking for people who do currently believe that. So I am gonna let you go. It feels bad because he's been waiting, but we gotta be snappy. Derek, you're on the live show.
Hey, what's up, man? How you doing?
I'm doing all right. Derek, do you believe that the Earth was created?
I do, but I have a kind of a different theory than probably everyone you've talked to.
I somehow doubt it, but yeah, let's do it. So
I look
why
at.
should I believe that the Earth was created?
No, I think that it was created, but in the sense of circumstantial. Like, I feel like let's get into the dimensions talk for just a moment. Right?
Actually, before we start, I just want to clarify. When I say created, I mean it was formed with intention.
I guess yes and no. And I'll get into why I think, because it really ties back into the whole dimensional type of level, right? So in dimensions, right, you transcend the dimensions, right? You have, certain aspects. So let's just say we can just go through them real quick because I'm sure people don't know all of them. First dimension's a line. Second dimension's a plane. Third dimension's space. Fourth dimension's time. Fifth dimension's multiple possible timelines. Sixth dimension's all possible timelines with the same basic universe. Seventh dimension is universe with different starting conditions. Eighth dimension is universes with different physical laws, I think.
Where are you
Then the
getting
ninth
this?
is every possible universe and every physical law.
Where are
10th
you getting
dimension is the totality of all possibilities.
Where are you getting this?
And then, of course, you get into M theory, which is, of course, is the 11th
where
dimension.
are you getting
which
this?
Is... What's that?
Where are you getting this?
That's basic dimensions, dude. That's
not
laws of space.
It's not science, is what it's not.
Well, yeah, it derives from a mathematical principle, but
what is
the
it?
idea, right?
What
all
the
right,
mathematical principle does it
thing.
derive from?
Well, check it out, right? We can perceive things that are dimensions below us. True.
We live in a three-dimensional spatial world. We pass through a fourth or an additional dimension of time. So we live in a four-dimensional space-time. That's all there is, as far as we can tell. Now, string theorists will tell you that there's 10, but those are just, there's 6 extra curled up dimensions. They're just extra spatial dimensions.
But you can observe dimensions below you, true?
I don't know what you mean by below me.
You can see that there's a line. You can see 2D figures, correct?
Yeah, so one-dimensional and two-dimensional things can exist in a three-dimensional world.
Right. But
yeah.
You don't know. In theory, we don't really know what the next dimension is because we're unable
there's
to
two
observe
options
that because we live in a three-dimensional world.
If there are additional dimensions, which again we have no evidence to support, if there are additional dimensions, they are either temporal or they are spatial.
Right. So
those are the
my
two
whole
options that
thing
you have.
is, right, is like the whole God thing, right? Is that I feel like people humanize it too much. They try to give human characteristics to an almighty being. And I think that's the wrong approach because you're trying to compare something that essentially, I mean, the universe is massive. You're trying to compare something that has no connection really to humanity in any way, shape, or form other than supplying the means like a rock that floated, how far to the certain circumstances for gravity to be able to pick it up by a star in the right conditions, millions of years, yada, yada, yada. That I think is the sense of my idea of God. He created the initial, or the event.
Why should I think there's such a thing that did this at all?
Because we exist. There's a beginning.
So, okay, would you say that, like, if it was just an infinite series of big bangs and big crunches, say, something fairly straightforward like that, would you say that, what's the God in that picture?
The God is not it's not a physical, like, or any kind of, the God is the idea of the action.
What's the action?
The action would be the very thing that created everything, that caused the Big Bang to happen, that caused the reaction.
So in the picture that I just described, where you have an infinite series of big bangs and big crunches, for example, there is no creation, right?
Right.
Everything always had something before it.
In theory, unless we're talking about...
So then there would be no point where the universe didn't exist and then it was created.
Well, so like what I mean by all that, right, is that, if we have, let's say that there are the other dimensions. Let's just go down the string theory for just a moment, right?
String theory says nothing about, like, timelines and then all timelines and then all universe. Like, that's not what string theory is about. String theory, the extra dimensions in string theory just curled up little spatial dimensions. They're not dimensions in the way you described.
Oh, I don't know. That's what I learned in college, but I don't know.
You didn't take a string theory class in college, so...
Well, I don't know, man. But anyway, that was my knowledge of it to this extent and understanding. But let's just say that there is stuff that we can't see. We know what is
like
true.
Dark matter. Dark matter, we can't see dark matter, but like we know it's there.
There is things that are true, like to that theory. Like we can observe 2 dimensions, right? We can see 2-dimensional objects. We know that's true. So the theory of that, to where we can observe the dimensions below us, is correct. So
I don't know what you mean by below us, but like there are lower dimensional objects that can exist in a 3-dimensional space. That's fine.
Right, and we can understand that, and we know they exist.
Mm-hmm. Yep.
So I'm saying if there is a higher dimension, we go through the dimensions, right? There could be, in this theory, that we are able to observe and know about smaller dimensional items that exist in our world, right? At some point, there would have to be like like kind of something that wraps it all up, you know? So
I
something that's
don't understand that at
outside
all.
of the dimensions. Okay, well, like,
There,
alright,
by the way,
if
saying outside of the
five-dimensional-
dimensions probably just doesn't even make sense, because outside is a spatial location, and even if there are extra spatial
probably couldn't
dimensions,
comprehend it as humans, honestly.
even if there are additional spatial dimensions, you can't be outside of them, because those additional spatial dimensions are the entirety of all of the places that you can be.
Right, which comes back to, you know, we can observe two-dimensional things, one-dimensional things, because we're three-dimensional. And, you know, like if we go
Nobody's
to...
disagreeing with that.
Right.
Like, look,
So,
it
but
could be
what
the
I'm
case that
saying
there are
is-
like, it could be the case, and you know, we don't have any evidence to support this, of course, but it could be the case that like
Right.
there is a large fourth spatial dimension, and in that large fourth spatial dimension there are organisms, and those organisms can watch us, but we can't see them because, you know, they're in a different coordinate in this fourth
Exactly.
axis that we're
That's
not
exactly
in. But
what
they're
I'm
still
saying.
not in.
Right.
They're still within a spatial dimension.
Right, no, I get that.
And
but what
again,
I'm
we have
getting
no
at, right,
evidence that this is the case, so I don't know why we would
Right.
believe it.
Well, I don't know. We don't have evidence of a lot of stuff that we believe, but, you know.
Like what?
Well, I mean, we can go down that hole for
Shouldn't
a
you
long
only
time.
believe
I
things
mean,
that you have reason to believe?
personally, yeah, but I
And
mean
so-
that doesn't mean
and-
society isn't, you know,
Well, look, I'm not
influenced.
talking to society. I'm talking to you.
That's fair.
So, like,
That's fair.
you know, unless we have a reason to believe something, like some sort of historical justification or some sort of empirical evidence, or perhaps some sort of like philosophical argumentation that gets us to that conclusion deductively, like, why should we believe that there's like these other dimensions or whatever?
Well, I mean, because we have enough evidence that supports us being able to see the other lower dimensions and
Right.
knowing
So
that
us
they
being able to
exist.
see lower dimensional things. To be clear, two-dimensional objects still live in a three-dimensional world, right? There's
Correct.
a lower dimension isn't a place, right? A lower dimension doesn't exist. Things are dimensionful, right? Things have dimensions. So you and I are three-dimensional things. The surface of a ball, like a basketball, is two-dimensional, but
Correct.
two-dimension is not the second dimension is not a place. There is no the second dimension. But even though it is the case that we can see surfaces which are two-dimensional, we can see curves which are one-dimensional in our three-dimensional universe, that doesn't therefore imply that there are larger or like a higher number of spatial dimensions that can see us, like we see the fewer spatial dimensions. Like, that's just, it doesn't follow.
Yeah, but we know time can be manipulated. The
What does that have to
gravity
do
of
with
the sun.
anything?
Well, because you're like, time is part of the dimensional discussion that we're
Yeah,
having.
it's not a spatial
And if
dimension,
you-
though.
Right, but it does play a factor. So let's say time can be manipulated to the point where it doesn't exist,
Well,
and we just
that's not
eliminate
a thing.
well, I mean, there's a lot of things that we don't know. So
Why would you
you
believe
know.
that? Why would you believe things unless you have reason to believe them?
Well, because based on the evidence that I do know, it allows me to draw fairly vivid conclusions of what may or may not be. For instance, okay, we know for a fact that the gravity of a black hole is so massive that it manipulates all time around it. We know that. That's proven scientific fact.
Manipulates
True?
is probably not the
You
right
say?
word, but sure, it does distort time.
It bends it, right? So the current principle of time to what we know is no comparison compared to what the black hole is doing. True?
I don't know what that sentence means. We understand how black holes bend space-time. This is pretty well understood, and it's been pretty well understood since like the 60s.
Yeah, right. Through gravity, it literally, it's like
Yeah, so
on a
what's-
plane and it
So what's the issue?
bends the time. Well, the whole thing is that we have evidence that time can be manipulated. So why can't we apply that theory, right, to the other dimensions and maybe
So we know
per
that
se-
space can be warped as well. The point is we know exactly how space is warped, and we know exactly how time is warped. We have equations that tell us how this works.
Correct, but I'm trying to apply this to all in all, you know, just an overall beginning. You know what I mean? Because ultimately, we know a beginning happened because we're
No, we
here.
don't. It doesn't
We're
follow
not
that because
evidence of
we're
a
here.
beginning.
It doesn't follow that because we're here
The
there must be
universe
a
didn't have a
beginning.
beginning.
Not that we know of.
The Earth didn't have a beginning,
Well, the Earth formed, yeah. The Earth did, absolutely.
which caused it to have a beginning. True.
Yeah, sure.
Circumstances all led
the
up
Earth,
to it having
definitely,
a
yeah.
beginning.
The Earth had a beginning like 4.5 billion years ago or so.
Right. So we know that circumstances had to take place to cause the very beginning. The beginning is
The beginning
a
of
start,
Earth or the
right?
beginning of the universe, because it's not
The beginning of everything.
it's not clear that there was a beginning of
Universe in
everything.
general. Well, how would you back that theory up then?
I'm not making a claim here. I'm saying that it's not clear that there is a beginning. Like, we don't have evidence one way or the other.
But we exist. So
Yeah,
how
we do
can there
exist.
not be?
So we could exist because perhaps the universe has always existed. In which case it doesn't have a beginning.
I guess that would fall then back to, beyond human understanding.
I don't think that this is necessarily beyond human understanding. I just don't think that we have the data that tells us one way or the other. I mean, it's possible that that at some point in the future we will figure out whether or not the universe had a beginning by, investigating the world around us using the scientific principles that we have. We've only been doing this for 100 years or so, this whole trying to figure out what caused the universe, or if the universe even has a cause kind of business. So, it's only been a few generations. Give it some time.
Yeah, no, I'm with that. Like, I know that we can definitely stumble upon more information, and I like science. Like, don't get it wrong. Like, I like drawing the conclusions and the theories and all that, and having evidence to back it up. I think that some things are unattainable right now, and that could play into the God aspect of it. That knowledge could be unattainable. I don't necessarily believe that it's purposeful. I think that people use humanization for God too much, and they confuse that with him having a specific intent and kind of manipulate it into, what they want it to be.
I muted myself, sorry. Yeah, I agree that humans definitely anthropomorphize the way the world works, which is why people come up with the ideas of gods. And, for that reason, I think that we should probably be very, very skeptical about God claims and about creation claims, because, these are constructions by humans doing anthropomorphization. So, Derek, I'm going to let you go,
Yeah.
because I'm not sure if
Good
there's anywhere else to
talking
go,
with you.
but thank you for being here. Take care.
Yeah, thank you. All right.
All right, let's bring up a guest from YouTube. Not YouTube, I'm sorry, TikTok. Let's talk to the Marley meter. The Marley meter.
Hello?
The Marley meter, how's it going?
Can you hear me?
I can. How are you?
I'm good. How are you?
I'm doing all right. The Marley meter, do you believe that the world was intentionally created?
I do. I'm a Christian, so I believe in God.
Okay. Why should I believe that?
Why should you believe it?
Yeah, as in, like, what should make me think that it's true? Because if it's true, I'd love to believe it.
Well, I mean, I could tell you why I believe it. I don't know if it'll be, good enough for you.
I'm happy to hear it, as long as it's not just like something that personally happened to you, because generally when somebody has some sort of personal experience, it can be very compelling to them, but it's just never really compelling to anyone else. But if you have something that convinced you that isn't just like a personal experience, I'd love to hear it.
Right. Well, I would say that for me, probably just that the way that that the universe is in general, we are. I mean, how much closer to the sun would we have to be for the planet to implode?
Well, I don't think the planet would implode ever.
If we got any, how much closer to the sun would we have to be for the planet to just become a ball of fire? We have been given a perfect,
probably like 50 million miles closer.
So we've been giving a perfect living condition.
Did you listen to my answer?
Yeah.
Like 50 million miles.
Okay. But so we are just far enough out of range, right?
We're like less than 100 million miles.
What does the planet do? I mean, okay.
Yeah, it's like perfect plus or minus 50 million miles, and we're sitting at like 100 million miles.
Okay. So do you think that I guess what let me think. Do you think that there is this perfect?
When you're off the app, I can't hear you. Hello? Hello? Marley meter? Hello? Marley? Marley, you gotta reopen the app, otherwise I can't hear you. There you are, welcome back.
Hello.
Where'd you go?
Do you think that these perfect living conditions that we have, do you have an explanation for this? I mean, as far as we know, we are the only form of intelligent species. I mean, to our degree of intelligence that exists in the universe, right?
Sure. We haven't looked very far, but sure.
Okay, but as far as we know, right?
Yeah, I mean, again, we don't know very much. We've only looked on a few different planets, but sure. When you minimize the app, I can't hear you.
Can you hear me?
I can hear you now, but you gotta quit minimizing the app. So I agree that we are probably the most intelligent, or well, you know, we are the most intelligent species on Earth. And as far as the planets that we've looked at, like Mars, Venus, there's nothing intelligent over there.
Right.
Now,
so
we haven't really looked much of anywhere else. So it'd kind of be hard to tell if we're unique in this regard. I kind of suspect that we're not, but you know, that's speculation. So what does this have to do with believing that a God exists?
Well, I mean, I think that just the fact that we, as intelligent beings, as far as we know, are able to exist in this environment, which again is a perfect environment for us to exist in.
Things it's a perfect environment for us?
Of course it is. Things have to happen.
Have you been to Antarctica? Like, we can't survive there.
What do you mean? You could live. You could breathe. You wouldn't instantly die if you went to Antarctica.
In, like, depending on how much clothes you were wearing. Like, if you didn't have access to like a continual supply of support, you would die in anywhere from 10 minutes, depending on if you weren't wearing the right clothes. Which, by the way, clothes are a good example of how it's not a perfect environment. To maybe a few days. Again, assuming that you didn't like have somebody build you a shelter or whatever. We only need clothes because the environment is not survivable for us otherwise. Like, you wouldn't survive a Michigan winter if you didn't have clothes.
Okay. Okay, so I don't know if
like, that's obvious, right? Like, you'd freeze.
Yeah, but right. But I mean, because we have intelligence, you're not going to allow yourself to die.
Right, but the point is intelligence allows us to survive in situations that are not perfect for us.
Wait, can you say it again? Sorry.
Intelligence allows us to survive in situations that are not perfect for us.
Okay.
Like, we can solve problems where we would otherwise be, in distress because we have intelligence. Right. So, like, it seems like that it's not perfect, but the fact that it's not perfect is okay because we're smart enough to figure out how to survive nonetheless.
Right. Okay. So when I was saying that we are given a perfect environment, what I meant, I guess, by that was we can't. We would be unable to. There is life on planet Earth because of the way that that the human body operates. We are you know breathing oxygen. We are, again, if you look at the way that everything operates in the universe, including ourselves, and food chains, for example, it just seems like it is an environment that was created. There's no, like, it's not like like dogs have evolved to get thumbs so that they can't, so they're no longer our pets or whatever, and we can't, be there. It's like everything is there for a reason. To me, this is why I believe that it was created, because everything has a purpose.
What about that parasite that gives you explosive diarrhea for 3 weeks? What's the purpose of that?
Well, again, I told you I was a Christian, so when we were cast from the Garden of Eden, God had promised us that we would not live past a certain point, and He also promised us a life of struggle for our sin. So life is not meant to be easy, I don't think.
So it's not perfect.
Well, life is not. I think you're getting hung up on the word perfect.
Well, that was the whole basis for your argument, right? The whole basis was that, it's perfect here. What are the odds of that, right? But if it's not perfect, then it seems like that first part of the argument just doesn't work.
It's still perfect. I mean, perfect is, I think, subjective, really. I think having struggle in life, to me, my life is perfect. I have a life.
I mean, look, I'm glad that your life is fulfilling and meaningful for you, and you wouldn't change it for the world. I'm glad that that's for you. But like, when you were making the claim originally that Earth is perfect for us, presumably what that meant is that there's no way that the Earth could be better for like human flourishing or human existence or whatever. But like, there are obvious ways that it could be better. Like doing away with the explosive diarrhea parasite would be one of them, right?
Right.
And so like, it just seems like that first part of the argument that like the Earth couldn't be better for humans than it is, and that's therefore evidence of like some sort of divine creator. It just doesn't seem like it gets off the ground. Now, if you want to say that the Earth isn't perfect, but it's like good enough, like sure, I would agree, it is good enough. But that's not really like an evidence or an argument for a creator then.
Well, I mean, so I guess I don't understand why it wouldn't be, even like, let's say, I mean, I think that I think that we're getting hung up on the word perfect. What I meant by perfect is like, if you put a fish in a tank with no water, that is an imperfect living condition for the fish.
Okay, so yes, it is imperfect. It's also like not even good enough, right?
Right.
I mean, like, I would agree that the Earth is good enough for life. Like, there are ways that it could have been worse, and then life could have never formed here. But I don't think that good enough is a particularly compelling argument for a creator.
I guess I don't know. I mean, I feel like it is. I feel like what are you looking for nirvana? I mean, we were given in the Bible.
Good enough is kind of what we expect. We kind of expect good enough under a natural worldview. Like you expect that there are going to be some planets that are just good enough, that have the right conditions for life, but aren't perfect.
Right.
And so that's just kind of like expected under the even if you don't have a God that exists, you expect that there will be some planets like this.
Right. I'm trying to have this discussion without becoming too preachy, because I think that Christianity does get a bad rap as far as creationism goes. I think there's a lot of really shitty Christians.
Granted.
So I'm just trying not to get too preachy, but the Bible does explain to me a lot of this. Like I don't know. I've read the Bible enough that I think, and again, I don't want to do that. So But anyway,
But what is it like? Okay, so what would the world look like? What do you think that you would observe about the world if the world wasn't created?
what would I observe about the world if it wasn't created? I don't think
Yeah, without
that.
intention. Like, just hypothetically.
I mean, I would say any of these. Well, actually, no. I was gonna say like an unlivable planet, but I feel like those probably also have purpose of some sort. So I don't know. I mean, I don't think we could because I don't think we would exist.
So, and I mean, that's kind of the core issue that I see with this kind of argument, right? Like, it seems like there's nothing that you could observe about, like, you're trying to make an observation about the world, right? There's some fact about the world that you observe, the world is a certain way, and then that leads you to the conclusion, or at least that leads you to a larger justification that, like, a God exists and that a God created the world or something like that, right?
Right.
So you're trying to reason from some fact about the world to some conclusion about the origins of the world. But if you can't give me some way the world could be such that you would come to the opposite conclusion, it just seems like you would come to this conclusion regardless of what you saw about the world. And so it seems like that this isn't actually a conclusion that you're coming to based on the evidence. It's unfalsifiable, if you will. Like, you would say, well, it was designed to be this way, regardless of how it was.
Mm-hmm. So wait, are you saying how would I see it? Like I exist as a person with thought, with the like I'm capable of thinking in this world that you're trying to.
I'm just asking, like what way do you think the universe would be? Like, imagine that you're like, you know, there's the separate issue of, you know, if the world wasn't compatible with life, then you wouldn't exist. But setting that aside, how would the world look if there was, or how, you know, we could say the world, but we could say the whole universe. How would the world or the universe look if there was no design behind it? Like, what would it be like?
Yeah. I don't think that I can't, that doesn't even make sense to me because again, everything like to me is perfect. Like we know that we can consume certain plants to nourish our bodies. We know we can consume certain meats to nourish our bodies. But if a dog or if a deer, you know, beef, like if beef no longer was if we were no longer able to consume beef, or we were no longer able to consume certain plants to be able to survive, like I feel like I don't know, it would just see, it seems like when I try to picture that, it seems like chaos, or like it doesn't,
well,
like
so it sounds like this isn't the kind of thing that convinced you, right? Because if it was the kind of thing that convinced you, then surely before you were convinced, you would have had a view of the way the world is, and you would have been like, well, the world could be like this, even though there's not a creator.
Wait, so say it again. Sorry.
So if it were the case that this thing that you're telling me about is the thing that convinced you, or is the thing that is convincing to you, then it would seem like it would follow that there was a time before you were convinced that Christianity was true, before you had thought about this idea that, you know, the world seems perfect, or at least seems good enough for life. So before that, before you had heard this argument, or before you had thought about that, you certainly had a worldview that didn't involve a creator, but still involved a world, right? So I don't, like, it seems like that if that's not the case, that you can't imagine a world without a creator, then it just seems like that this isn't the thing that convinced you that a creator exists.
So are you saying that, because I think I see what you're saying, but you know, like you're saying what my worldview was prior to becoming a Christian,
prior
like
to hearing this argument, perhaps, or hearing this, you know, this kind of explanation.
Sure. I feel like I probably, well, I know that I personally was dabbling in a lot of different, again, I grew up in a Christian household, but I rebelled against it pretty hard. I dabbled in Taoism. I dabbled in I don't know, there's some other things, but I was trying to find any excuse for it not to be Christianity.
So it doesn't sound like there was ever a time that this convinced you, right?
What, Christianity?
That the argument, that this particular argument was the thing that's convincing to you. Because, like, it seems like you just believed it the whole time. You were just kind of doubtful.
Doubtful of
Christianity.
Yeah, I was definitely doubtful of it. Yeah. Oh, yeah. So I guess, yeah, I probably did. I would say, yeah, maybe on some level, yeah, I probably did.
So I guess what I'm saying is that, like, if it's the case that you can't even imagine, actually, let's back up. So one of the ways that we do science is we kind of, and I'm not saying that we have to do science to religion, but it's just a useful way of thinking about these things, right? Is you have an idea, and then you say, okay, well, if this idea is true, how should the world be? And then you go out and you look, you maybe run an experiment, or you point a telescope somewhere, and then you look and you see, is the world actually that way? If so, then that's a good reason to think that your idea was correct. Because, you know, if your idea is correct, then the world is that way. Well, the world is that way, so it's at least, you know, some reason to think that your idea is correct. But the only way to make it make sense, the only way to make sense of this, to make it be a useful method, is if you have a chance of being wrong, right? So say that I have an idea about, you know, about how the sun works. I don't know. Maybe I'm just trying to figure out how the sun works. I see the sun as big bright ball of plasma or whatever, and I'm like, well, you know, maybe the sun works because there's like little gnomes that live inside, and they're like continually feeding coal into the center of the sun, right? Maybe that's my idea for how the sun works. And so I say, well, if that's true, then sometimes I should see that, you know, when the gnomes get tired, I should see that the sun gets a little dimmer. Maybe that's a prediction of my idea. But if I'm wrong, then I should see that the sun never gets dimmer. And so then I would go and I would look at the sun and be like, well, the sun always seems like it's the same brightness, therefore I must have been wrong. But it seems like your idea, you know, God created the world. It doesn't seem like there's some way to check whether it's right or wrong. Because regardless of how the world is, you would say, well, it's still explained by God creating it.
Yeah, so I mean, so I guess what I would say is that it goes directly against what you believe as far as trying to explain something away with science.
Well, I'm not talking about like empirical science and like test tubes and stuff. I'm just talking about like a way that we think about things, right? This is like a way that we can test ideas. Is, you know, you have some idea that potentially explains something, and then you just go out and look. Is the explanation, like, does that idea correctly explain things, or does it incorrectly explain things? Like, that's just, it's just like a way of thinking. It's not like some like rigorous like science thing.
So are you saying that there's a way to explain everything that is ever, you know, like there's some way you can explain it?
No, what I'm saying is that if we have an idea that is supposed to be an explanation for something, right? In this case, God is supposed to be an explanation for the way the world is. Then we should have a way, there should be some way to check if the idea for your explanation is right or wrong.
There should be some way to check. So in my case, there should be some way to check whether or not God didn't create the universe.
Yeah, and so in particular, the thing that the reason we got here was because you said that, like, you know, the world is a certain way. You originally used the word perfect, but it was something to like, it's compatible with life, right? The world is a way such that life is able to exist on it. And so I asked you, what would the world look like if God didn't create it? I.e., what if you were wrong? What would the world look like? And you're like, well, I don't think that there is any way the world could look that would make me think that it didn't have a purpose, i.e., it wasn't created. So it seems like that there's no way that. Let me back up. What I'm saying is that if your claim can't be proven wrong by the opposite of the evidence, then the evidence isn't evidence to begin with.
So then I guess I would have to say that the way that you could prove it wrong would be if there was no intelligent life on Earth at all.
Well, that would
I
be a
think
little
the
bit hard to
fact-
observe, huh?
Well, I mean, it would be, yes.
Because how would you observe it if there's no intelligent life?
Right. Exactly. That's why I was trying to.
So, but we go out and we look in space, and as far as we can tell, there's no intelligent life in most places. Doesn't that mean that it seems that most places would be uncreated?
Well, I think that without sounding like we are the most without trying to I think that the fact that planet Earth is the only planet, as far as we know. Again, I actually do believe that there is. I don't know about intelligent life, but there is. I think life outside of Earth. But I think that the fact that this planet is the only one that is capable, as far as we know, of hosting intelligent beings is good enough for me. Like when I think about a creator, it's like if I was doing a science project and I wanted my what were those things back in the 90s, the little things that you put in water and they grew up and they were like little tadpole things. You created this perfect environment.
Sea monkeys? Is that what they're called?
Yeah, sea monkeys, yeah. So you created this thing, and it was inside of this little chamber, and this is how I view Earth also. It's like a chamber that we were put in. We're pretty much like ants, at this point.
So let me walk you through a hypothetical that's perhaps answers your question, or at least is a little bit illuminating for the way I'm thinking. So suppose that so on this hypothetical, we live on Glurth, and Glurth is, in another galaxy or whatever. And on Glurth, Glarly Gleeder and Glitz are having a conversation about Gleezus. And, Glitz asks Glarly Gleeder, what would Glurth look like if Gleezus didn't exist, if Gleezus didn't create the world? Sorry, the Glurld. Then, and then Glarly Gleeder says, oh, well, there just wouldn't be life on Glurth. And I'm like, okay, well, if there wasn't life on Glurth, it'd be hard for us on Glurth to observe it. But that doesn't mean that that one couldn't say observe it. And then little would Glitz and Glarly Gleeder know, but there's actually life on Earth, and there's Blitz and Marleymeter talking. And so if Blitz and Marleymeter were to go and look at Glurth in another galaxy, then we would see that there's no life. Like, in reality, there is no life on Glurth. And so it seems like the argument for we would expect to see no life on Earth, well, it seems like that argument has actually worked on every single other planet. So it seems like, right, in fact, the evidence is against the world being, or the universe being special or created, because in almost every single scenario, the argument fails, right? The argument for a God existing is exactly falsified, that we don't see life there.
Well, why would there need to be, I guess?
I guess what I'm saying is that it's impossible for us to observe, like, there is no situation in which we could observe life, or we could observe the lack of life on Earth, right? Because if we weren't on Earth, observing Earth, then we would just be making the same argument about whatever planet that we find ourselves on. Mm-hmm. So the claim, oh, well, if Earth wasn't designed, then we would not expect to see life on Earth. That's not something that could be, we could never observe that, even if the Earth, like, suppose, for example, that, the universe was made by something, and instead there was life on Glurth and not on Earth. Well, we could never be Earthlings observing Earth not having life, right? So it just seems like that this criteria that you've chosen that would prove you wrong is the kind of criteria that's impossible even in principle. Whether or not you're correct about it, like, even if you're wrong that God created the Earth, it would still be impossible to see life not on Earth. Like, either way, So it seems like that's like, yes, I suppose that is a criteria. It's kind of cheating though, because it's the kind of thing that's impossible either way.
So I guess the whole reason you're having this creationism is false is because you just like you need you don't want to operate on faith then.
Yeah, of course not.
I see.
I think that faith
Well-
has. I don't think that faith has ever led us to correct conclusions about the way the world is in human history. I can't think of a single example. Like, it's never been the case that, oh, faith led us to one conclusion, and then later we figured out that that conclusion was true. I don't think that's ever happened.
Okay, well, I guess I mean I know I'm not going to convince you. I was just, I just wanted to do the back and forth with you. I appreciate it. Sorry, you're muted, I think.
Oh, thanks for being here, Marley Meter. I appreciate you being here.
Yeah, I appreciate you. Have a good one.
You too. Bye-bye. Yeah, I need to get better about the muting thing. All right, let me read a super chat or two, whatever super chats we have, then we'll move on to our next guest. By the way, if you want to support me, if you like seeing what I do, if you like various topics, make sure to send in super chats, make sure to send Cash Apps, PayPals, whatever, or Cash Apps, Venmos, whatever, because it helps me know which topics you guys like. And which topics you'd like to see more of and which topics you'd like to see less of. Sorry, I was doing something. Oh, I was scrolling. From Dr. Fudge with the $5, caller likes LARPing and yapping is what he likes. Look, everybody likes yapping. Tell me one person who doesn't like yapping, I'll show you a bridge to sell. From the Rabbit Squirrel Sage with the $2, 50 million miles. It's the course tuning argument. Indeed it is, right? Did send you a galaxy. So I can't see who sends you those things. Like, I can't see who sends me those things. Like, they don't come up long enough, and I have like 3 screens open, so it doesn't populate my my thing. Let me, you know what, I'll scroll through it and I'll see if I can find it. From Christopher Sanford with the £10, very appreciated. The whole "we have the perfect place for life" argument confuses me. First, it's just not, and second, what you're saying is that life exists in the spaces where it's possible for life to exist. Or, okay, yeah, that's the issue, right? It would be really good if, like, we had some sort of criteria that we could test, that we could actually test. Oh, Mr. Effects, thank you for the star maps Polaris. I just saw that because I happened to be looking over. Oh, and Mr. Effects, I do see the galaxy. Thank you so much, bud. It is very appreciated. It's just, unfortunately, it doesn't populate on my like app, so it's hard to see. But thank you so much, guys. Let's bring up our next guest from Discord. I wish that it showed me the order in which people joined. Let's bring up Ashitaka. Ashitaka, how's it going?
Hello.
Ashitaka? How are you?
Yeah, I'm doing pretty good.
Glad to
Can you
hear
hear
it.
me well?
I can. Ashitaka, do you think that the Earth was intentionally created?
I think that the whole universe was intentionally created.
Okay, why should I think that?
So there is, to me, my interpretation. I don't really have like a traditional interpretation of the Bible. So I don't really agree with the whole 7-day creation thing with Earth, specifically because the Earth is not the center of the universe, as it was taught when the Bible was written.
Glad we agree.
But I believe in the existence of God, and it might not be the traditional God that churches believe in, but I believe in the existence of something, some conscious being outside of time and our physical world, right?
Okay, why should I believe in that?
The reason I believe in that, and all of it comes through experiences. So I find it a little bit difficult for you to be involved in that type of experience. But so I come from a Latin American country, Cuba.
Okay.
In that country, there's a big clash, and that's true for almost all of Latin America. There's a big clash between traditional Christian religions and traditional African religions.
Sure.
So my personal experience has been that when there's a church and there's a cult for the African religions, they clash, and I'm talking about spiritually. Like
Okay.
they have this.
Are we going to get to
So-
like an argument or some piece of evidence or some reason I should believe soon?
Yes, really soon. So basically that clash is spiritual. So that leads me to believe that it's outside of the physical realm, based on things that I've seen. If you were to experiment those things, and you can even call it supernatural, the ghosts, things like that, could fall into that type of. I know all that I'm talking about is evidence for spiritual, right? I
What does
tend
that
to
have to
believe
do
that
with
those,
whether or not a god created the world?
that's where I'm going. That's where I'm going right now. I'll get there really quickly. So basically, the spiritual world, I've seen evidence, personal, I guess, anecdotes that it exists. So I'm thinking that God exists outside of the physical and the spiritual realms, or let's call it dimensions, right? So I think by God existing, I correlate that to the creation of the universe, therefore the creation of the earth.
Why should I think
Now,
that
I
a
don't
god
really believe-
exists? Suppose that I grant that there's like spiritual stuff. Why should I think that why should I think that a god exists?
Let's say that those spiritual things will be beings outside of
Yep.
our dimension, right?
Let's say I grant that.
I
Sure.
would expect that as dimensions go, which really escape our human understanding, it goes all the way up to a higher dimension and a higher being that can transcend every single dimension.
Why should
So
I think that?
that's my, because, well, that would be the logical progression. If we have one-dimensional structures, we have two-dimensionals, three-dimensionals, it keeps going. So to me,
Why should I think that there's any higher dimensions or anything?
Because there is precedent for lower dimensions than the three dimensions that we exist
Are you
in.
the same guy as before, just putting on an accent? Like, this is the exact same
No,
thing that the
no,
other guy
no.
said.
I wasn't listening to the live.
Okay.
I was just waiting.
Yeah, there's no
but-
evidence for
no,
higher
I
dimensions. That's the
actually
point. Like, we don't really have a good reason to think that higher dimensions exist.
Oh, you're saying there's no evidence for higher dimensions?
Yeah.
Okay. So I guess that's where we have the difference in understanding. My belief in higher dimensions comes from the spiritual experiences that I've seen personally.
You've never had a spiritual experience that's not in a three-dimensional world.
No, but something
So
that,
then what's the evidence for the higher dimension?
let's say something that is definitely outside of the physical dimension. Yes,
All
for
dimensions are
example,
physical.
my understanding of the
If there
fourth
are higher
dimension-
dimensions, they're physical.
Yes, but for example, when it comes to the mind, or I would say a different manifestation of the physical. When it comes to spiritual, for example, that's non-tangible. You can see it manifest through the physical, but it's non-tangible. The spirit is non-tangible. You can see it manifest through chemistry in the bodies.
Non-tangible does not mean not in this dimension.
Well, I would say to me that would be my understanding, that it bleeds, that the spiritual manifestation would be a higher dimension bleeding into our dimension. Same way we can affect second dimensions from the third
Okay.
dimension.
I already did this once. I can't do it again. I'm sorry, Ashitaka. You seem like a nice guy, but I just can't. I can't do it again. I will rage quit the live if I have to do it again. Go watch my response. So Ashitaka, if you're still listening, go watch my conversation with the first guy who did that. That was between 32 minutes at the beginning, from the 32-minute mark of the live to the 48-minute mark of the live. Go watch that conversation, and you'll see why I'm responding the way why I responded the way that I did. Hopefully that'll make sense. Mr. Effects, thank you for the additional galaxy. Same with Good Ferryman with the 600 jewels. I can see these. From Hish, what do you think happens after death? I think nothing. I think it's over. And from again, where did the first matter come from? was it eternal? It's not clear that there was first matter. From Nekdu with the $2, I love some Glockter Glitz. Hashtag Glavaglamp. True! Glockter Glitz is based. From Chase Teaches Physics with the $2, I'm sad at these people using higher dimensions. Me too. I'm really sad about it too. All right, let's bring up a guest from TikTok. Let's bring up Craig. Craig, how's it going?
Good, how you doing?
I'm doing all right. Craig, do you think that the world was created with intention?
I do.
Okay, why should I?
So I've been listening for just a little bit, and I think for a previous guest, maybe you mentioned a couple times before that you think it's possible the universe has eternally existed. Is that correct?
It seems at least possible. Like I haven't seen something that rules that out.
Okay. So that would just mean, is this like under time A theory then? Was that
No,
the
I think
idea?
that A theory of time has been like thoroughly discredited.
How so?
Relativity, the simultaneity of relativity implies that, you know, if you take now to be well defined, and my now to be as real as anybody's now, then my now can be your future, your past, depending on how fast I'm moving, where I'm located. And so if all nows are equally valid and equally real, then it seems like you end up with literally all times being equally real, equally as existent.
Okay, so like the future currently like exists, I guess.
Well, it doesn't currently exist, it exists in the future.
But I mean, like if we were to zoom out, we could look and see like every...
Yeah, if you could somehow get a full view of the four-dimensional space-time, then yeah, you would see the past, present, and future all there.
Okay. So then relativity proves that?
Well, relativity proves the relativity. One of the consequences of relativity is the relativity of simultaneity. Now, whether that proves that all nows are equally real, that's a philosophical constraint, but you would have to give probably some sort of justification for why some nows are preferred over other nows. If relativity, if the laws of nature don't seem to have a preferred now.
Okay. Sorry, I'm a little confused by that, but like how would that prove that like your, you know, I don't know how old you are, but on your 70th birthday, like that is like currently exists?
Well, the point is, it doesn't currently exist. It exists in the future, right?
Well, sure. Well, hypothetically,
it exists in my future.
Yeah. Well, hypothetically, unless it's time B theory in it, like for sure would.
No, I mean it exists in my future. It doesn't exist now.
But with time B theory, there's no like now. I mean, our conscious like makes us.
No, I mean there is a now. You can look. So the idea is merely that. Okay, I can just give an example. Suppose that somebody in the Andromeda galaxy is, traveling at some significant fraction of the speed of light towards me. I think towards me is the correct thing. Maybe away from me, I'd have to work out the mathematics. But they're traveling in some direction. What they would find is that what they consider now where they are is tilted relative to what I consider now where I am. And I can just pull up a diagram, maybe that'll help. One sec. There's a good one, but... Okay, I'll just use this one, that's fine. It's from Wikipedia, so it's, royalty free or whatever. Okay, so here's a diagram that kind of, it does its best to depict it. So on the vertical axis, there's a pair of red axes, right? And then there's a pair of green axes. So imagine that I'm hanging out at A. Now, the horizontal axis is places, and the vertical axis is time. Okay. So if I just hang out, if I'm just sitting where I am, then I will move up this axis, right? And each moment of time will be a horizontal line. Right, that'll be a moment of time, and that'll give me the set of all points in space-time that are now. So like this horizontal line would be now at t equals 0. This horizontal line would be now at t equals 1. This horizontal line would be now at t equals 2, and so on. But if instead, if I'm sitting at A and somebody else is sitting at B, and at B they're moving, see how the line is tilted? They're moving at some speed in this direction. I guess they're moving to the right. Then their axes tilt. This is a consequence of relativity. And so in that case, There now is the tilted red line. That would be there now at t equals 0, or it's not quite, but that'd be there now at t equals like -1. Then this red line, this next red line would be t equals 0. This next red line would be t equals 1, and so on. And so the point is that what they consider now, if say they're located over here, what they consider now would be my future, because it's on the same red line. And if their now is just as real as my now, well, then that means that my real exists, because it's part of their now. And so it seems like at least this is some reason to think that the past and future exist just as really, or just as really.
Yeah, I get you.
And as just as much reality as now does.
Okay. So just so I'm understanding it then, so like the future you currently exists, or not, so I don't mean currently.
It's hard to.
It's a reality. Yeah, sorry to use the words.
There's a future me, it's just in my future. There's a past me, it's just in my past.
Right, and not a hypothetical, like an actual you that exists in the future, we'll just say, right? Okay.
Yeah.
And so it's already been determined, and you can't like create it. It's already been determined, and then you've got this like conscious or this awareness. This is kind of like this like storyteller in a sense of like moving you through what has already been determined. Is that correct? Yeah. Okay. So then how does this consciousness like know, like how does it track you is my question. Like how do you account for that? Like why are you?
I don't know what you mean.
Well, how
so at each moment in time, there will be a me, assuming that I'm still alive, of course. At each moment in time, there will be a me that has memories of its past.
But there is no like past, because it just
no. I mean the past still there is still a past. It's just the moments of time before.
But there's no before, because
there's still a directionality to time. Absolutely. I mean, like I showed you, like on the diagram, like the past is like downwards-ish, and the future is upwards-ish. And so when I say the current now has memories of my past, what that just means is that I have memories of the things that happened in the downward direction. I just don't have memories of things that happened in the upward direction.
But if we zoom out and we look up, there's no time. Time would be an illusion.
No, there still is time. It just doesn't flow. That's all. But there's still time.
How is there time though? Because it isn't like yesterday is just as much of reality as tomorrow is for you, as is right now for
it's just now. That the probability of having a memory about yesterday is orders of magnitude higher than the probability of having memories of tomorrow. So we end up having memories of the past rather than the future.
Well, what do you mean, the probability?
Yeah, so one of the ways that we can account for why we remember the past rather than the future is because of essentially thermodynamics. From thermodynamics, we kind of expect that things that were in a lower entropy state, as they evolve and as they separate and as they become more complicated, they retain imprints from the way that they were, because it was simpler in the past, if you will. Whereas you're not going to have any imprints from the future because it's more messy in the future. So you're going to simpler things can influence the more complicated things, but it doesn't go the other way around. It's not bidirectional.
What do you mean like how would you have any memories from the future?
Well, the point is that, I mean, let me try to explain. This is trying to explain why we have memories of the past rather than the future. And the point is that you could have, like if your brain was arranged in a certain way, then you could have knowledge of what we would call the future, right? If like your memories were such that, if somebody programmed predictions of what the future is going to be like into your brain, then you could have memories of that.
Well, yeah, but like it couldn't be arranged because it's already like it's existed. It wouldn't
well,
like
you're thinking
be
very
arranged.
A theory.
Well, no, but I think with time B theory, it's like everything that will exist like currently exists, and we have this conscious that like kind of keeps us in this what we think is a present moment, but it's not really a present moment because tomorrow exists just as much as yesterday.
Yeah, and
existed.
tomorrow will have a me with a conscious memory of today.
Right, exactly. So then my question is, like how do you account for this consciousness? Like that's what I'm trying to understand.
Like,
how
are you asking like what is consciousness? Because like, dude, I don't think that anybody has an explanation for that on A theory either. If you're asking like from a physics perspective, why does the consciousness seem to remember the past and not remember the future? That's what I was explaining earlier. But if you're like asking me to solve the hard problem of consciousness, that's like not a theory of time problem. That's like a philosophy of mind problem, or perhaps a neurobiology problem, or whatever.
Well, I just think that I'm not a believer in the time B theory, because this, like, I haven't heard a good explanation for how to account for this consciousness. Do
you have an explanation for how to account for consciousness on the A theory of time?
Well, I think it's because our brains were developed that way, and then
then why can't it be the same for the B theory of time?
Because it wouldn't develop. It would just always be, because it's always been.
So on the B theory of time, all develop means is that there was some coordinate of time that was, t equals -5, where there wasn't a brain, and then at t equals -4, there was a brain.
Yeah, but like, how would you account? Like how would you account for that? Like, it wouldn't have developed.
The laws of physics work identically.
Well,
they work exactly the same way.
But physics are an illusion in their time B theory.
No, they're not.
Yeah, they would be.
How are they an illusion?
Here's an example. So like, think of like those flip books, like those picture books with like the horse, where you like flip the 10 pages, it looks like the horse is moving.
Mm-hmm.
But it's actually not moving. It's made to look like it because you flip the book, but they're each their own instance that exists.
This is actually really bad. This is really bad for you, actually.
No, I'm just saying under time B theory.
So on the B theory of time, different moments of time are related? Yeah, go ahead. Sure.
So the idea with that is it looks like the horse is in motion, but the horse actually isn't in motion. It's just made to look like it's in motion. It's an illusion. And that's how I view time B theory, because it's all of these instances have happened, but it's like the consciousness is like our flip book that we like can kind of, it looks like the thing is moving. But if those pages were in different orders, it'd be like, well, what even is this thing? We don't even understand it. So that to me is like, that's my confusion with the time B theory.
Yeah,
like it's just all illusion.
So there's a few things to say here. First, the flow of time is illusion, but the existence of time is not. I mean, in the same way that like we say that like space exists, we don't have any problem with space existing, even though there's not a flow of space. It's just like there are different places and different spaces, right? Like, I don't know where you live, but I don't live in Tokyo. So like, I'm not in Tokyo, but Tokyo does exist just somewhere else.
Right.
In the same way that I'm not, I being like the one that's talking to you, I'm not in the future, but the future exists just somewhere else. But setting that aside, the issue you brought up is actually a really, really good issue. It's actually like devastating for the A theory of time, and it's actually a point in favor of the B theory. So in the A theory of time, the only moments that actually exist is now, right? So all you can do is you can specify the state of affairs now, but you can't specify relations between now and the future or now and the past. But the way that we talk about physics is we talk about the rate of change of a thing. This is how we describe, projectile motion or whatever. We talk about how quickly things happen. We talk about the rate at which a thing, precesses in orbit, whatever it is. But those relations in particular are relations between different moments of time. So like if you want to figure out how quickly something moves, you figure out, well, where was it here at this moment of time, and where was it at this second moment of time? But if there's only one moment of time, there's no way to develop those relations. All you have is now, so there are no relations between time.
But
on the B theory, there are, like, every single moment of time exists. So those moments of time are available to be in relation with one another. And so I can actually make sense of something like how fast is something moving, because I can actually make sense of saying where was something at this moment of time, where was it at this moment of time, and then I can figure out how much time was between them and then figure out the speed. That actually makes sense under a B theory. And so I can talk about things like equations of motion and equations of evolution equations and development, things like that. Those make sense under the B theory. They don't make sense at all under the A theory, because you just don't have additional moments to compare with.
But with your time B theory, you have an illusion of moments of time. There actually aren't.
No, the moments of time exist. It's just not a flow. There's
Well,
just
I
no
would
flow
say
of
these.
time.
I wouldn't say they're time. I'd say they're different spaces.
Well, no, I mean they're temporally related, not spatially related. There's like there's like a technical difference.
Because again, if we zoom out, like let's take away conscious and we zoom out and we just look at reality, it's all existing in one instant. So there's no time. But then when you input your consciousness, it makes it look like there's a flow of time, but there actually isn't a flow of time. Like physics doesn't actually
right.
exist.
There's no flow. There's no flow, but there still is time.
Well, not if you take away your conscious and you look up, because it's all existing simultaneously.
Oh, it's not simultaneous. That's a time word, and we're trying to talk
or
about.
I'm sorry.
Yeah, but I don't mean it. The point is that
you know what I mean?
The point is, look. The point is that there is like a measurable way to distinguish between temporal changes in location and spatial changes in location. And so all I'm saying is that there are two distinct ways that you can talk about where you are in a space-time. One of them is a temporal way and one of them is a spatial way. That temporal way still exists even if it doesn't flow.
I don't think so. Because,
I mean,
like I said,
this is like that is just what these objects are. Like if we're talking about a four-dimensional space-time, this is something called a Lorentzian manifold. And it has two distinct notions of direction. There's spatial directions and temporal directions. That just is what the B theory of time is about.
So, real bit quick, going back to the picture book, when you flip the pages, it looks like there's motion, but there's no motion, correct? The horse is not actually
in the picture book, sure. Yeah, of course.
Right. So, how is that different than this time B theory?
Because the way that we define motion is the change in location across different time slices. That's what motion is in the B theory of time.
What do you mean by time slices?
So like you can take a moment of time.
Like illusionary time slices?
Like I mean like they're not like literal physical like slices with a knife, but like a time slice is a moment of time. Right? So you can have multiple different moments of time, and you can look at the change in position of an object across those moments of time.
But that's using, like, take away your conscious.
I'm not talking about a conscious. You can do this from an external point of view as well. Like, think of like the space-time as like a loaf of bread. The loaf of bread has slices, right? Those slices are time slices. Think of each slice of bread as like the 2D universe that you live in. And on different slices, you could be at different places in your 2D universe, and that's what we call motion.
But in that bread example, those are different spaces. They're not different times.
Well, yeah, it's hard to imagine because we are trying to visualize something temporal in a spatial analogy, but it is an analogy, right? We can draw diagrams that represent this.
But that's why I think, with all due respect, I think it breaks down. Like think of all of reality as like a loaf of bread. Yep. There isn't time on the bread. There's just space.
The time direction is the long direction of the bread. But
the time though is, but there isn't actually time, is what I'm saying.
The time direction is the long direction. That's just what time is under the B theory.
But that time, but there's no like, if you were to like, yes, input your consciousness and like go through,
this doesn't have to do with consciousness.
Like it would be time.
This doesn't have to do with consciousness.
I would just say I'd say it's different.
You're trying to import you're trying to import the A theory of time, of what you think time is, into the B theory. But all I'm telling you is that in the B theory, time is not conceived of the same way that it is in the A theory. It's like you can't use your A theory intuition to try to think about time in the B theory. They're different theories of time.
Then explain what time is in the B theory.
Time is the long direction on the loaf of bread. That's what time is.
What does that mean?
So there are spatial directions, which are kind of like the not long direction,
right,
and then there's time directions, which are the long directions.
Well, what is a time direction? What does that mean?
It means that it has a different signature in the Lorentzian manifold.
What does that mean, though? What does that mean?
It's like this is a. I mean, like so when you're in a space-time rather than purely spatial, you can have things called wave equations, which are certain kinds of parabolic equations, which have different properties than these things that are called like Laplacian or perhaps elliptic equations, temporal or equations of motion, and that's just what they're called. You don't worry about the word motion. Equations of motion. These are like the equations that describe the properties of a thing are different when you have a temporal direction, which is called, like in a Lorentzian manifold, than if you just had spatial directions. And when we go out and we observe the world, these things have this property of obeying these equations that look like they have a temporal direction rather than having only spatial directions. So it's not just only spatial directions. It is spatial. There's 3 dimensions of space around us, and there's a dimension of time.
But I agree when you said it look like temporal.
I mean that's exactly like, and so that's what we mean by time. That it has these properties that reflect these certain dynamics of systems and certain space-time intervals and so on. That's what we mean by time.
Okay. But it all exists in one.
It all
reality.
exists in the same way that all of the locations exist, but they're not all in the same place.
I guess I'm just confused then why it's just not space. Like they're just different spaces.
They're different.
Like,
they're different
I don't
kinds
get why you
of
throw in the
ways.
time.
They're different kinds of ways that
time.
things can evolve and change and be.
But it's not evolving. It's already been.
Look.
Like
So okay, maybe I can just make this super concrete. So whenever you're trying to describe there's a certain kind of again, it's called an equation of motion. This is what describes the way a thing is. In physics. So when you talk about a spatial direction, you get a plus sign. And so you can talk about how a thing is distributed spatially, and you'll end up with a plus sign in something called the Laplacian, which is, a wave operator, if you will. If you talk about the way a thing is in a temporal dimension, you get a minus sign. And what we find when we go out and look at the world is that the way that things look is that there's 1 minus sign and 3 plus signs. That's the thing that matches all of the data that we see. Not 4 plus signs, not 3 plus signs, and no minus signs. 1 minus sign, 3 plus signs. That's just the way that the world is. And when we see that there's a minus sign there, we mean, that's what time is. That means that there's time here.
Okay, I didn't quite follow that. It could be my fault though for not following it though. Okay, yeah, I think to me it just I see time B theory is as it just spaces like that flip book. It's already existed.
You could think of them as like if you could think of them as like generalized spaces, so not locations, but that they are different ways that a thing can be configured or arranged or oriented. And then you can have temporal spaces and you can have spatial spaces, and they're just different kinds of things that behave in different ways.
Yeah, I mean, but I don't think they're actually behaving. They just are. Like,
okay, when I use the word behave, what I mean is like the properties of the thing.
Well, it's made to look like it has a property, but it doesn't actually have a property.
Things can definitely have properties even if they're static.
Well, if we zoom out though,
they still have properties.
It looks like it's a property, but it's actually not. Like I said,
how do properties go away? The horse still has properties, even if it's just a flip book, right? The horse is still brown, and the horse still is moving from page to page, so that every time it moves to the next page, it's like, I'm using moving as in its position is different. From each page to the next page, it's in a different place. Right, that's still a property. Place. That's still a property. You can still describe that property.
Well, it is in a different place, but if you were to mix up the pages, then you'd be like, well, what even is this thing? It's like, totally arbitrary.
You can't mix up the pages. There are laws of physics relating the pages to each other.
Well, but that
tells you which page is next to which page.
But the thing is like, but it existed. Like it didn't rely on none of this stuff relied on physics.
Physics is a set, the way that I view it anyway, is a set of constraints for the way the world is.
Do you mind if I just finish?
Sure.
Like physics wasn't needed in order for this reality to substantiate. It's just always substantiated. It isn't dependent on physics.
Physics is a description of the way the world is, right?
Right.
And so like it couldn't be random. No, not as an illusion. It's like actually the way the world is. It couldn't be the pages couldn't be, in this analogy, the pages couldn't be randomized, because then the world wouldn't be the way the world is.
Well, the thing though is if it's all in different spaces, it doesn't matter.
There's only the one space-time. I don't know what you mean by all in different spaces.
Well, different. If you were saying time
pages,
slices, space slices, or page slices.
No, but those pages are related to each other. That's the point.
Well, No, they aren't. They're not
Sure they
related
are.
to each other. When you flip the book, it's made to look like it's related to each other, but it's actually not.
That's what
like
it means to be related to each other. That there's a prescribed order. That's what it means.
Well, that's because our conscious makes it look like
it's not a conscious thing.
Or our awareness makes it look like it.
It's just the
But if we
world
were to
is in an order.
Well, I would say if we zoom out and we look at all of it,
you would see that
just
it's in an
looks like-
order.
No, not necessarily. Not because there's not like it's not like a direction. Our conscious makes it look like a direction, but your yesterday is just as real as right now, is just as tomorrow, just as much as Abraham Lincoln lived, as much as whatever.
Yeah, we can plot this on a diagram, and on that diagram you'll have that yesterday is below today, and tomorrow is above today, and they're ordered.
Well, but my point is that it's all existing, and
yes, and they're existing in an order.
But we have this like cheat code called this consciousness that makes us look like all these things are real, but they're like, or that there's a flow to it, but there's like no flow.
So the flow is the illusion. I agree.
Exists.
The flow is an illusion. I agree, but that doesn't mean that there's
flow
no
of our
order.
Conscious. Yeah, but the flow, but it isn't in order. Is my point. It's made to look like.
Then
it's
you're
in
not.
order.
Look, if you're saying that it's not in order, then you're not critiquing the B theory of time. The B theory of time posits that there is an order.
But how away from consciousness? How is there an order?
This is a property of the universe that there is a temporal ordering. This is what's posited by B theory. A temporal ordering is that there's an order in which moments are arranged.
Apart from, how would you know that apart from consciousness?
How would you? This isn't about how you would know it. This is just about the ontology of the world. This is what B theory posits, that the ontology of the world is that the world is a four-dimensional spacetime. That spacetime has that it is a four-dimensional spacetime, and that you can derive mathematically. That implies that there's a temporal ordering.
Well, I don't understand.
Like if there's not temporal
that.
ordering, then there's no four-dimensional spacetime, right?
If there's no temporal ordering, then there's no four-dimensional spacetime. Sure, I agree with that.
And so B theory of time posits that there's a four-dimensional spacetime. And so if you're saying, well, under the B theory, there's no ordering, then you're just not critiquing the B theory.
But that's my point. There isn't an ordering to it.
Okay,
like,
then you're not talking about B theory anymore. So
yeah, but I'm saying B theory it breaks down very easily. Because it's positing that there's
where's
an
the
order
contradiction?
to it. Well, it's positing that there's an order, but when you like dive into it, there is no order.
No, there is an order. You just don't think that there's an order, but there is still an order there in B theory. What is the what about B theory? What about the universe is a four-dimensional spacetime? What about that implies that there isn't an order?
Because when we dig into it, again, to me, I sorry if I keep bringing this up, but like with the horse and the pages, like there's no motion. There's not actual motion. It makes it look like they're motion, but these things have already existed.
What's actual motion? In B theory, motion is the change in position across different time slices. That's what motion is.
Well,
so there is motion in the B theory.
Well, there's a change, I would say, in space from
change
one
in position
space
across temporal slices. Yeah.
I'm still just not.
That's what motion is. That's what motion is in B theory. That's just what it is. That's how it's defined.
But it's not. So but it isn't like dependent on the past event. On a past event, it isn't like
What's
in order
not dependent
for
on a past event.
Well, in order for you to walk to your refrigerator, it isn't dependent on past events. Correct?
There's relations. Now, if you're asking about what's the ontology of laws, that's a problem on A theory and on B theory, about whether laws are governing or whether they are merely kind of simplest possible descriptions of otherwise unrelated events. These are deep philosophical questions that I think it was Hume that brought up, however many years ago. But these are problems on both A and B theory, so it's not really germane.
But my point is, in order for you to walk to your refrigerator, it's not dependent on you getting up and moving.
That depends on your interpretation of the laws of physics. But in kind of traditional views of the laws of physics, it absolutely is.
Well, no, it wouldn't be because it's already been determined ahead of time that you will get up and go.
Yeah, but in order for you to be halfway between your fridge, there has to be in order for that to exist, the laws of physics demand that there was a quarter of the way to your fridge, for example.
Yeah, but you were already in the future a quarter of the way. You couldn't even make a decision.
Both would be demanded.
No.
Yeah.
No, I don't think both would be. What's already going to be will be, and nothing can change it. So whether you get up,
these are compatibility conditions, not causal conditions.
Well, there's no cause.
I know. That's why I said these are compatibility conditions, not causal conditions.
I'm sorry. I'm sorry about that. So can you say that the first part, it's
compatibility, meaning in order for this to be here, it must be the case that it has these surrounding conditions in the past and in the future.
Not in order. It's not dependent on it. It will exist.
No, it's a compatibility condition. It's not a causal condition. It's compatibility, meaning that it is impossible for it to be this way unless it has these certain kinds of bounds.
No.
Then you're confused about what the B theory is.
Well, I'm saying it isn't like something's impossible or in order or dependent on something. It just is. Like, it just is.
Well, no, I mean, it would be impossible in the B theory of time for me to be halfway between, my couch and my fridge. Let's say that, like yesterday or whatever, I was on my couch. It would be impossible in the B theory of time for me to be halfway between my couch and my fridge if I wasn't closer to my couch at earlier times and further from my couch at later times. That would be impossible. This is a compatibility.
Yeah, but it's
compatibility issue.
Yeah, I agree with that, and that's how the spaces work, where there is
the moments of time. You mean?
What's that?
They're moments of time. That's what we call a slice of space-time.
Yeah, but there isn't there just isn't time. It's like,
sure there is. It just doesn't flow.
Well, it doesn't flow, but they're just separate instances.
Yeah.
Right. So in the sense of
they're separate and they're also related to each other. They're connected.
They're separate. Yeah, they're separate. That's true. Are they related to each other?
Yes, they're connected.
I think everything's ultimately related to each other, but they're connected, but they're like eternally connected.
Yep.
In a sense. But
they are non-temporally, non-spatially connected. They are connected in the sense that they're temporally connected in the sense that my water bottle is temporally or is spatially connected to my table, that they're both next to each other.
Or is it that you're my thing is is your conscious able to delineate which space to go to next is my point. In order for
your conscious exists at the whole time.
Yeah.
As long as you're alive, of course.
So you're awareness.
It doesn't go anywhere. The flow is the illusion.
Yeah, but for right now for the next 10 seconds of our conversation, the reason why you don't snap into your first moment of kindergarten and then you snap into
that me exists as well.
Well, I know exactly, but your conscious is able to delineate that your next moment shouldn't be your.
What do you mean next moment? All of the moments exist.
Well, I know, but your conscious makes it look like it's a next moment.
The only reason it looks like there's a next moment is because each subsequent moment has slightly more memory than the previous one.
Well, that your conscious does.
Yes, that's what we're talking about.
But your conscience is doing that.
The memory, your conscious isn't responsible for the memory thing. The memory thing is the thing that happens, and then your conscious is an awareness of your brain states.
Okay, yeah, sure. Yeah, I'm sorry, I'm mixing up a conscious and awareness. I'm just trying to figure out how, if everything exists in one reality, how your conscience is able to move forward in a way that is
it's not moving forward
for us, or able to
pick any moment.
Not moving forward.
Pick any moment of time where you're alive, right? That moment. The only reason that you know that moment is in the future of some moment in the past is because you have memory of the past. That's the only reason you know that.
Right, but I'm just wondering, how.
So this feeling of flowing through time is just the feeling of accumulating.
An illusion.
It's the feeling of accumulating additional memory.
It's illusion, correct?
Yeah.
Right. And so why is it an illusion then?
Why is it an illusion? Because it's not. Yeah. Because the flow isn't real.
Right.
That's why it's an illusion.
Real. Okay. So then we have an illusion of physics.
No, physics is still totally real.
No.
You can still have physics even if you have a B theory of time. You can still have dynamics. Dynamics are what we call, you know, the development of configurations across time. You can still have dynamics, even if the flow is illusory.
But the physics, though, it already exists. We look at it and think, oh, there's physics to this, but there isn't like actually physics that are needed in order for this whole thing to work or to be able to explain anything.
That depends on your preferred interpretation of what laws of physics even are. But the laws of physics, regardless of how you do them, it's totally compatible for physics to just be essentially constraint equations that describe the way that things can be.
In our illusion. But they
not
are
in our
because
illusion,
they are.
just in the world, just in the four-dimensional thing.
But like, yeah, we're kind of make-believing with this time B theory. Like it looks like all of these things based on our memories.
There are
which
still
are
like when we say that
illusions.
something happens, what that means is that like there was a way that the world was at some point t equals 0. There's a different way that the world is at t equals 1. Different way that things are spatially arranged at t equals 1. We say that something happened between t equals 0 and t equals 1. That's just what it means.
Well, but it isn't like something happened.
Look, that's just how the word. That's just the way the world. That's just what we mean when we say that something happened.
Right, which is an illusion.
Only if you're trying to think of time as an A theory of time. But if you think of it as a B theory of time, there's nothing illusory about it except the appearance of the flow. But things can still happen. Happening just means that there was a difference in configuration at t equals 0 and t equals 1. That's just what it means for things to happen in a B theory.
Yeah, I get it, but I'm still saying everything that exists has always existed in this eternal state, and
eternal
so
is probably not the right word, but sure.
Or I'm sorry,
it's fine. It's hard to avoid time words.
Yeah. So yeah, and so therefore nothing's actually It's not like any of this stuff is needed. It just is, and then in our minds we just like kind of make observations that, oh, this looks interesting, but it's actually not like, I mean, if you get rid of our consciousness, it's not like, oh, you can break a law of physics or a law of physics can begin or anything like that. It's just kind of is what it is.
Yeah, the world is described by laws of physics because that's what laws of physics were, constructed to do, if you will. But the point is that, depending on your ontology of the laws of physics and laws of nature, that's a whole separate conversation. But the point is that whether or not we're here, laws of physics describing, the dynamics of systems still make perfect sense.
Yeah, we can understand them in our little awareness here and try to make sense of it. But it doesn't explain the ultimate picture, is what I'm just trying to say.
Sure, it does.
Well, no,
I guess it depends on what you mean by the ultimate picture, but
yeah, I mean, it's not like physics actually well, whatever. I mean, I feel like I'm
so let's say that all of your critiques are correct about the B theory of time. Let's say that A theory of time is correct. How do you get to a creator?
Yeah, so I would say that real quick, I would say that the past has to be finite. It couldn't be infinite.
Why?
Well, let's just stay under time A theory.
Well, wait a minute. I'm sorry. In A theory of time, there is no past. So.
Well, there was the past or whatever.
No, well, I mean, there was the past, but the past doesn't exist. So there's no there's no actual past infinity, even if every day had a day before that.
Yeah, I agree. So there's no actual infinite past. So there would have to be a finite past.
Because the past doesn't exist at all. No. There's no finite past either. The past doesn't exist. There's no thing that's finite or infinite under the A theory.
Well, with A theory, we would be able to had a spaceship that could go back in time. We could just
you can't go back in time in A theory. There is no back in time in A theory.
Well, I'm saying that's what I said. If you had a spaceship, hypothetically, and you could just go back in time, hypothetically, you would be able to see the prior moments. And the question
that only works on B theory.
Well, I'm saying hypothetically.
Look, I'm granting you A theory. So
yeah,
if I'm granting you A theory, then you can't have time travel.
Well, I'm confused maybe by what you're saying. Like, why couldn't the past be finite?
Well, because there is no past. The past ceases to exist after once it's no longer the present, right? So there is no past. There's no past that is finite.
Okay, so from the time that we started talking to now, what would we call that? What do you want to call that?
What we could say is that, we have memories of these events taking place, and we could have looked at the clock, we have memories of looking at the clock, and we can compare that to what the clock says now. But the point is there's no actual thing that's finite or infinite for the past.
Well, there was an actual thing. It's
Sure.
no longer. Yeah.
Sure.
So those was actual things. Are they infinite into the past, or are they finite into the past?
Are you asking how many? Are you asking how many total moments there are? Because,
Sure.
regardless of whether or not there was a 10 trillion BC, if there was a moment that corresponded to 10 trillion BC, there's an infinite number of moments, right? Regardless, like, how many moments are there in 10 minutes? There's an infinity of moments.
Yeah, the numbers between 1 and 2 are technically, endless.
Yep.
But it does end at the number 1, and it ends at the number 2.
How many numbers are there between 1 and 2, though?
Infinite.
Right, and so, like, how many moments are there between now and yesterday?
Well, we can agree there's a difference between saying the numbers between 1 and 2 are infinite, and the numbers between 1 and negative into the negative numbers is infinite, right?
It's actually the same number of numbers, interestingly enough. It's the same same
we would
cardinality.
say cardinality is
It's the amount,
right?
It's the size of a set.
Yeah, sure, it's the size of a set, that's fine. But the idea would be that there's a difference between going from 1 to 2 to 1 to an actual infinity, correct?
To 1 to an actual, well, there is no actual infinity because the moments don't exist. Now, you could be making the statement that you could be making the statement that something like, oh, well, there was never a time that said negative infinity on it. Like even if you had existed at all possible moments, you would never have memory of the clock reading negative infinity. But that's true.
Can I ask?
That's true even if every day had a day before it.
Can I ask this? Like, and if you don't mind, just let me get it out. And
sure, go ahead.
Your critiques are better than mine, but if you could just kind of hang with me here for a second, would it be fair to say there's a difference between, let's just say now and 13.8 billion years ago, and a difference between now and an infinite past?
What a difference in what way?
So prior to 13.8 billion years ago, there was no time, but between now and an infinite past, there's an infinite amount of time. Is that can we say those are different things?
I mean, you can conceptualize them differently. One could be like, certainly under the B theory, you can say that they're different things. Absolutely.
Sure. No, but under A theory.
Under A theory, you're asking that. I mean, like, you're describing them differently, so of course they're going to be different things.
Well, is that fair?
But like, are they meaningfully? Are they meaningfully distinct?
Yes. Are they meaningfully
so what you could
distinct?
say is that, like, we can construct what a memory would have looked like 13.8 billion years ago, and what a memory would have looked like 13.8 billion years ago is that there's no memory before that.
Correct.
Whereas
Yeah, sure.
the alternative is that we could construct a memory from 1 trillion years ago, and the memory of that, the memory from that would be that there was a day before that. So yeah, in that sense, they can be different. Yeah.
Okay, so perfect. So I would say that I hold to that first option that you gave, because I would say there's a meaningful distinction there. And the reason why I would hold to that first option would be this way. So, like, let's say you and I right now, could we count an actual infinite? Like, would that be possible?
Could we count an actual infinite?
Yeah, like 1, 2, 3. Could we count?
From starting from 0? No.
Starting from 0, sure. Yeah.
No. Well, it's not even like. It's not even clear what the question means, because, like, infinity is not a number, right? So there's no counting to infinity.
Do you kind of get what I'm saying? Do you kind of get what I'm saying, though?
Well, it sounds like what you're saying is you can't make an infinite set if A, you add one element to that set every finite amount of time, and you only have a finite amount of time to do the counting. That's true.
Well, you wouldn't have a finite amount of time, but you would have an infinite amount of time. Like
if you have an infinite amount of time, then yeah, your set could be infinitely large.
Well, not under time A, because you can only go one moment at a time.
So, I mean, if you have an infinite amount of time, if like, look, so, like, we can just do this mathematically. Like, this is
well,
not
I'm
like...
sorry the words are sloppy. I'm sorry that they're sloppy. Do you kind of get what I'm asking? So, like, if you and I had to just...
I know
like,
what you're saying, but it's either a category error or it's false, right? Like, if you have infinite time available, then yeah, you can make the number that you're... Like you can make your set that you're adding to infinitely large.
Well, so if we have here's a better way. If I have a potential infinite amount of time, how about that? Could I?
Then no, you could not have a.
Okay.
Then you couldn't actually because
Yes.
then you'd have a potentially infinitely large set.
Correct. Okay. Boom.
Sure.
Yeah. So I agree. So I think that's what time A theory would be. Would be that there's the future is a potential infinite, but you can't count an actual infinite with a potential infinite. So then let's just do the problem in reverse.
Can't count an actual infinite with a potential infinite?
Yeah. We just agreed to that, correct?
Yeah, sure.
Okay. So then now let's just take let's say in order for like your live to start today, we have to account for a series of events that took place, correct?
Yeah, sure.
So the question would be, is it that infinite or is there that finite that we talked about?
Could be
before?
infinite.
Well, but it'd be the same problem in reverse. It wouldn't be infinite.
Well, no,
because
I don't see why it couldn't be infinite, because in the reverse problem where you're counting up, you're starting somewhere, but here we're not starting somewhere, right?
No,
there's no start of the past finite or of the past infinite universe.
Yeah, but let's look at the problem at the reverse. You and I would agree, in order for your live to start today, you had to account for a series of events, right?
Yeah, sure, and that series could be finite or infinite.
Right, and so let's be agnostic about that.
Yep.
Now let's now let's start when your live began, and we have the ability to count backwards 1 second at a time. Okay,
I see what you're saying. So
yes,
yeah, you and I couldn't get to all of, like, if the universe is past finite or is past infinite,
yes,
past eternal, then
yes,
absolutely. Stop saying yes because I'm disagreeing with you.
No, I'm agreeing.
Well, I'm glad that we're agreeing then. So if the universe is past eternal, then you and I couldn't count back all of the possible pasts, all of the moments of the past. That doesn't mean that those moments aren't there. We just can't do it because we're finite things.
No, that's not true. We should be able to.
Why should we be able to?
We should be able to.
Why?
Because it happened.
What? Just because it happened doesn't mean that you should be able to enumerate all of them.
Yeah, it should be.
Why?
Because you have to account for the fact that
what do you mean account for? Like, you and I, like, in order for me to be here, I don't have to know anything about what happened a billion years ago. I'm just existing. You could say that maybe, like, the universe has to account for it, but the universe is not the kind of thing that thinks. It doesn't have to account for anything. It just is a certain way, right?
But from the time for the live to start, if we had had the potential infinite to live into the an intentional infinite past, then we should be able to count all the actual infinite events.
Why should you be able to enumerate all of them?
Because if we're going to say that there was an actual infinite past, then you would be able to count the actual infinite moments.
Why does that follow?
Well, how would it have gotten to today if there wasn't an actual infinite past?
That doesn't seem like it addresses my question. So your claim is that if there was an actual infinite past, then we should be able to count all of the moments of the actual infinite past. I don't see why that's true at all. I don't see why that would be true at all.
How is that not self-evident?
Well, look, it's apparently not self-evident. So, like, unless you can justify it, then it seems like that there's no reason to think it's true.
So justify
why you think that we should be able to account for every moment in a past eternal universe.
Because you're claiming that did happen.
Yeah. Why should we why should we be able to count all of them?
Because they would have actualized.
Yeah. Why should we be able to count everything that's actualized?
Dude, are you hearing yourself?
Very much so. Why should we be able to count everything that's actualized?
Because it happened. And if it happened,
why does that mean that we should be able to count them all?
Dude, what are you talking about? I'm honestly confused.
Your
on what you're
incredulity is
saying.
so confused. Like you're just asserting this stuff, but not able to defend it.
I know. I'm saying let's be agnostic towards it.
Yeah,
And
so
you're the one
I
asserting it.
am being agnostic. I'm like, okay, why should I think that I should be able to count for? Why should I think that I should be able to count all of the past moments?
So why prove the thing that you're saying is true? Well, that's
We're
on
not talking
you.
about proving
You
it.
prove
We're just
it.
talking about counting it. Look, we're trying to be agnostic, right?
Yeah,
So if we're being agnostic, then you need to provide an argument for the case of the thing that you're trying to demonstrate. Otherwise, I'm just being agnostic. I'm like, why should I think that I should need to be able to count all of them? That's the agnostic position. Well, the agnostic position is, give me a reason to believe it. Otherwise, I don't believe you.
Dude, I don't know if you're hearing yourself. You're saying
I'm trying to be agnostic, like you suggested that I be.
Okay, but now we're going to critique. Now we're going to posit that the actual infinite is real. Okay, let's not be agnostic anymore.
Well, no. So I thought we were being agnostic about all of this stuff. So we're supposing that the universe has is past eternal. Now let's be agnostic about what that means. I'm agnostic about whether that means we can account for all of the past moments.
You and I. Okay, here's what I'm going to say. You and I earlier. You said if you have a potential infinite. You couldn't count an actual infinite. So if you and I just went one by one by one by one, we would just be counting forever, right? And we wouldn't actually count at the infinity.
Definitely.
So let's just flip that problem in reverse.
Yeah, so I wouldn't be able to count it. You're right. I agree. We wouldn't be able to count it. How does that mean it doesn't? How does that mean it doesn't exist?
Boom! You just answered your question.
No, I asked the question.
Because it doesn't. Because you can't do it, it means it can't happen.
So, hold on.
Unless
we're going to formalize this because I think that there's something being missed here. So I'm going to open up the notepad and we're going to go over it formally. Good. Okay.
And I'm not trying to be rude or anything. I'm
not being
trying
rude.
to.
Difficult, perhaps, but not rude.
Okay.
It's okay to be difficult.
Well,
okay. So premise one. If there is or if you only have a potentially infinite amount of time, then you cannot count to, then you cannot actually count infinity. Something like that, right?
Sure. Yeah.
Premise two. You cannot actually count infinity. What's the conclusion? Therefore, you don't have an actually infinite past? This is a non sequitur.
Well, no. What I'm saying is let's be agnostic about the infinite past, and let's try to figure out what would be able to happen.
So we're not currently being agnostic about the infinite past. What you're trying to do is what you're saying is, let's suppose that there is an infinite past. Let's see if we can derive a contradiction, show that that's nonsense, show that there's something that's false about it, right?
Well, I think here's what I would say. Let me just recalibrate here. So I would say let's not presuppose an infinite past or past an infinite past or a finite past. Okay, let's try to figure out which one is correct.
Yeah. So we're analyzing the infinite past case, and I'm just saying, okay, let's be agnostic about let's be agnostic about it. Okay, so if an infinite past exists, then X. What goes in X?
Well, I would just say this.
Are you saying then we should be able to count all of the past days? And then you say P2, we cannot count all of the past days. Conclusion, an infinite past doesn't exist.
Sure.
That sounds like that's what your argument is. I'm asking you to defend the first premise.
Okay. If an infinite past exists, then we should be able to count all the past days. Okay.
Why should I believe that this first premise is true?
Because in order to get to today, there had to be an actual infinite amount of moments, correct?
Okay, so I'm going to write down the defense of P1. In order to get to today, there had to be, so what was the rest that you said?
You would have to be able to count.
You would have to be able to count every actual event.
But you
why?
Can't. Because
okay, and then P2 or P12 is you can't count every actual event.
Right.
P1 conclusion. This doesn't even seem to be getting us to P1. Like, it just seems to be a reassessment or a reassertion of P1.
Right.
Or rather, sorry, you were just reasserting P1, P2 in the conclusion. I'm asking for why I should think P1 is true. If an infinite past exists, then we should be able to count all of the past days. Why should I think that if an infinite past exists, then we should be able to count all of the past days?
Well, what's the confusion? Honestly, like, what's?
I just don't
how are you
believe
confused?
I just don't believe that this is true. I don't believe that the first premise is true.
So in order, how though? Like, you know, in order to say,
this
like,
is your argument. You have to justify it.
yeah, but dude, I mean, in order for, you know, like, what's today? Monday? Geez, it's only Monday. In order for Monday to, in order for Monday to exist, right? We needed to have like Sunday and then Saturday and then Friday, so we can account for that, right?
Well, right. So like, those are past finite days. So
yeah, exactly.
Look, what I agree is that if an infinite past exists, then that means that an infinite number of past days must have existed.
Right.
That's
yes,
true.
Exactly.
But it doesn't mean that you should be able to count all of them.
Why not?
Because you can't count infinities.
Which is why you can't have an infinite past.
Hold on, just because you can't count something, does that mean that it can't exist? It sounds like you're saying
in reality.
It sounds like you're saying if you can't count something, then it can't exist.
Look, if
why should I believe that?
Because if the universe is 700 trillion years old, then we should be able to account all 700 trillion moments, correct?
If it is 700 trillion years old, then yeah, because it's finite.
Boom, exactly.
Because it's finite.
So then
we can count things that are finite. We can't count things that are infinite.
Which is why you can't have an infinite past.
Just because you can't count something doesn't mean that you can't have something.
Correct. Yes.
How does that follow?
Dude,
justify the claim.
That would be a contradiction.
What's the contradiction?
You're saying you can count an actual infinite past because an actual infinite past
existed. No, I didn't
existed.
say that. I said you can count a finite past.
No. But in order to, you said earlier, an actual amount of infinite events took place in order to get to today, correct?
Yeah.
So then an actual infinite amount of events can be counted, but you just said
they
then
can't
it can't be counted.
No. The events taking place is not the same as them being counted.
Well, they
existence
can exist.
and being countable are not the same.
They can exist, but they can't be accounted for.
They can't be counted.
Contradiction.
Okay, look, can you count all of the numbers between 1 and 2?
What's that?
Can you count all of the numbers between 1 and 2?
That's different. That's
Please answer the question.
Paradox
Can you? This isn't Zeno's paradox. This is unrelated.
No, it's the same thing.
Can you count all of the numbers between 1 and 2?
You can't.
Okay, but do the numbers between 1 and 2 exist?
Yes.
Okay, so there are things that can exist that you still can't count.
These are different infinities, though. I agree with you. Yes. You and I agree on that.
Actually, you're right. The infinities between 1 and 2 is okay. I guess it depends on whether or not time is quantized. If time is quantized, then the infinities between 1 and 2 is actually bigger than the infinity of a past eternal universe. If time isn't quantized, then they're the same infinity, actually.
But you could traverse the numbers between 1 and 2, correct? You can traverse those.
Sure.
Right.
But not if you spend a finite amount of time at each moment.
Not if you spend a finite amount of time at each moment. Yes, but
right. You're actually traversing them at an infinity of moments per second, say.
Right.
Then you could traverse it. Similarly, if you could, these are called supertasks, by the way. If you could somehow traverse an infinity of seconds per second, if you could count an infinity of seconds per second, then sure, you could count an infinite pass, but you can't.
That's true, but
you can't do supertasks.
But don't you think these are category errors? The numbers between 1 and 2 is different than numbers between 1 and an infinite without an ending.
No, I mean, like they are like the same. Like numerically, they are equivalent. Look, I'm just asking for the justification of this premise here because this is equivalent to P1.
Yeah, if you can't, so you and I agreed.
And by the way, actually, this is strictly false. If you can't count something, then it can't exist. You've already agreed that this is false because you agree that you can't count the numbers between 1 and 2, but it still can't exist. So this is false, which means that. So this is.
Yeah, but that's a
false.
That's a different.
Which means
that's a different question. Hold on.
If something exists, then you can count it.
No. These are different. These are
also
not
false.
No, but these are obfuscating things. The numbers between 1 and 2 is a different problem to solve than the numbers between 0 and an infinite.
Okay, but but
negative.
Do you agree that this statement is false?
Sure. In the context between numbers between 1 and 2, correct.
Just generally speaking.
Well, dude,
is there like in order for this statement to be false, you need to find one example of something that you can't count but can exist. That makes the statement false. Yeah, so this is a statement about all possible things that could potentially be counted or not counted, and that potentially could exist or not exist. So this statement is about all of everything, seconds and numbers between 1 and 2 and universes and blades of grass. This applies to everything. And so the fact that there is at least one counterexample means that the statement as written is false.
Yeah, but it needs to apply specifically to what we're talking about.
I'm talking in broad generalities. That's the point. So broadly speaking, this statement is actually false. Now, there might be some things that you can't count
I mean,
that also don't exist. But broadly, and that statement broadly is equivalent to this statement. If something exists, then you can count it. Okay.
I agree.
So this is false. If something exists, then you can count it. The principle is false.
Like I said, if you're going to make a broad sweeping statement, you can find one example, but it doesn't mean every other example means that it is possible.
So then why should I believe that this applies? So now what you're saying is that, well, if we replace something with infinite past, then it should be true. Why should I believe that this false statement becomes true if you narrow your scope to an infinite past?
Well, all I'm just saying is, just because it doesn't apply in every situation doesn't mean it can't apply in others. That's all I'm just saying.
I know. So what I'm saying is that, look, this broad statement is false, but what you're saying is, well, even though the statement is false broadly, if you narrow your scope, you replace something with something more narrow with an infinite past, now all of a sudden it's true. What's the justification for that?
Well, it's not that all of a sudden it's true. It just means that in this instance, it can be true.
Right, so what's the justification for that?
Because if you and I were to sit here and count endlessly, all we would be doing is counting, and there would always be, like, you can't get to the edge of infinity, right? There's always that next number over the hill. So the point is,
how does that justify this statement? If something exists, then you can count it. I'm just asking you to justify that.
If something exists that you can count it?
Yeah.
Well,
or yeah, like,
what do you mean?
I'm asking you to justify this statement in the case of an infinite past, that if an infinite past exists, then you can count it. Why should I think that that's true?
Because I would say, in order to get to today, there was a counted infinite moments.
Why should I think that they were counted?
Well, you said there's an infinite amount of days, right? You mentioned that before.
Yeah,
so then that would be
perhaps, like, I mean, we could say that there's like an uncountable amount of past finite or of past moments, right?
Sure. So if it's
and then they can't be countable,
right? So they can't be counted. So then that's why we have the problem.
Why is that a problem?
Because if it can't all be accounted for, then we wouldn't be able to get to today, is my point.
Why do you have to be able to account for something? Like, look, accounting for something is like a thing that, like, people do, things with minds do, right?
Yes, right.
Why does an inability for a thing with a mind to do something say anything about whether something exists?
Well, I'm just saying, if you were like a superhuman, right, and you had the ability to live a potential, but if you had the potential, like, if you were given superhuman abilities to live in a potential infinite, and you started right now and you were going to count this actualized infinite past, all you would be doing would be counting moments. And if all you're doing is counting moments, then you are not able to collect the entirety of the infinity.
I agree, but that doesn't mean that it doesn't exist. It just means that you can't count it.
Even with a potential infinite amount of time, you can't
with a potential, you can't count it. Yeah, sure.
Right.
Well, how does that mean that it doesn't exist? How does that follow?
Because the way time works in time A theory, it's a potential infinite.
That doesn't follow from A theory, no.
Well, like right now, into the future is
the future could be potentially finite.
It could be potentially finite, sure, but it also is a potential infinite as well.
I mean, in some sense, you know, the past could be potentially finite or potentially infinite, right? Because the past doesn't exist, right? It could be both.
Yeah, I mean, right, if we're doing the agnostic thing. I'm just saying, like, look, if we need to get to 13.8 billion years, like, you and I can snap our fingers in our head, we can be like, boom. It's definitely,
I agree, we can't conceptualize it. We can't conceptualize going back an infinite amount of time because that's not even a sensible thing. You can't count to infinity, I agree.
Right,
that just says nothing about whether or not it exists, right? Or it existed.
Well, I think
like these are completely unrelated. Our inability to count or our inability to conceptualize is unrelated to to whether or not a thing exists.
So do you think we could count, or do you? Well, but the problem with time A theory is it constrains you to 1 second at a time. Let's just say.
Sure.
And if it constrains you to 1 second at a time, then you can't get to the edge of infinity, and that's the problem.
Why
with
do you
time
need to
B
get
theory,
there? There's no issue with getting there.
Well, with time B theory,
whether
it
you
solves
can
it.
get there, whether you can get there or not, is irrelevant to the question of whether it exists. You don't have to be able to enumerate something in order for it to exist. Unless there's something that makes an infinite past special, that makes it so that if you can't enumerate it, then it can't exist, then there's just no reason to think that the enumerability of something is related to its existence.
Can I maybe one other quick analogy? And,
sure.
And you know, if we want to move on to something else, that's fine. But the so you're a kid, and in order for you to drink a cup of water, you need to get an infinite amount of permission. So meaning, like, you've got to ask your older brother, and then your brother's got to ask your mom's got to ask your dad,
yeah,
the dad's got to ask the mayor.
Yep.
Right, okay. So in order to drink that cup of water, could you get the infinite permissions going one by one?
No, because that would be going into the future. That would you haven't had the permission yet. Yeah, absolutely.
Yeah,
you couldn't get it. You haven't had the permission yet. So you have
bingo.
to ask, and then definitely.
So then just flip that problem around.
Right.
It's the same thing.
So flipping that problem around would be like, yesterday or today I got So I'll flip the problem around, the analogy, and then it becomes a non-problem. So today I got permission from my mom to drink a cup of coffee. And then yesterday, my mom got permission from her mom to drink a cup of coffee, or that I could drink a cup of coffee. And then the day before that, and it goes back forever, and there's no issue.
Right, but the kid can never drink the cup of water.
No, he could drink it. He could drink it today because he got the permission today from his mom, and his mom got it yesterday from her mom.
So why does it work into the future, but it doesn't work into the past?
Because in one direction, you're trying to start at 0 and go to infinity. In the other direction, you're saying the infinity has already happened, and now we're here.
But that's asserting it. You need to be agnostic towards it.
The point is that the point of your analogy is to try to show why an infinite past is impossible, but the exact same analogy in reverse, which is what I did. I just flipped the entire causal chain in reverse.
That's because you're assuming
that works perfectly well.
But you're assuming an infinite past. You can't assume an infinite past. That's my point. You don't assume it.
Look, so your analogy assumes a beginning, right? You can't assume a beginning.
Well, but the thing is, it's just working the problem in reverse. In order for your live,
you can't reverse assume that there's a beginning.
I disagree, because here's what you can do. You can start at this moment of your live and say, let's account for this series of passive events.
We've already been over this. Just because you can't account for it doesn't mean that it doesn't exist.
If the kid drinking, the reason why the kid couldn't drink the water in the first example is because he couldn't get an infinite number of permissions. So if he can't get an infinite
number of permissions. That's the point. That's why he can drink it now.
No. Let's into the future, right? So if he's asking questions into the future, could he get an infinite number of permissions and drink the cup of water? You said no.
Yeah, because he hasn't already gotten the infinite number of permissions. I agree.
Well, but
in order to get an infinite number of permissions, you need to have already had an infinite number of permissions. I agree.
With a time B theory, correct? But
no, with time or with time A, or A theory of time. It's A theory, not time A, by the way.
Sorry,
you tricked my mind. No, but look, on the A theory of time, unless you've already had an infinite number of permissions, you can't get an infinite number of permissions, and that I agree with. But you haven't ruled out that the kid has already gotten an infinite number of permissions.
That's assuming it, though.
I'm not assuming it. You need to rule it out if you're trying to make the case that it's impossible.
The question, like, I agree with you. If the kid's asking for an infinite number of permissions from his brother, his mother, whatever, and he's got to wait to drink the cup of water, all he's going to be doing is waiting. We agree on that.
If he starts with a finite number of permissions, including 0.
Sure, right, exactly. So if he starts at 0 and he's asking
Right, I
forever,
agree. Yep.
then
But
the
if he
reason why he can't.
starts at infinity, then there's no issue.
What does start at infinity mean?
Means that every person who he got permission from somebody else.
That's
Every
how
person in the chain had already gotten permission.
Now we jump to time B theory.
No, this
It
isn't.
only-
This
it
isn't B
only
theory
work-
time.
it only
This is
works
still A
with
theory
time
time.
B
This would just be about memories. So like so the kid would have a memory of his mom giving permission. His mom would have a memory of her mom giving permission, and so on forever.
If it doesn't work in one direction, it can't work in the other direction.
I
That's
just
my
explained
point.
how it can work in the other direction. The point is if you start from 0, you can't get to infinity. I agree. But if you start with an infinite past, then there's no issue to getting to the permission now.
But starting at an infinite past doesn't make any sense. What does
That's
that
what
mean?
you're trying to prove. That's what you're trying
No,
to. No,
that's what you're
at
asserting.
T equals 0, at T equals 0, if the kid has already gotten infinity permission from the eternal past, then there's no issue, right? I'm not saying like you start an infinite chain.
What does that mean,
That's
though?
not what I mean.
What does that mean that he's gotten a permission?
Yeah, what I
from the
mean is
eternal
that
past?
he got his permission from he got permission from his mom yesterday. His mom got permission from her mom the day before. Her mom got permission from her mom the day before, and so on forever.
How would that be done, though? How would that be done?
What do you mean? How would it be done? I just explained it to you.
No, you started at the
so
end.
every day somebody gets permission, and then they give permission the next day. Where's the issue?
How?
Well, if I get permission to do something today, I could just go give somebody else permission tomorrow.
And then what happens the next day?
Then the next day they would do the same thing.
And then what happens the next day? You
They
see
would
what I
do the same
mean?
thing,
It just and
They-
it
like,
never
there's no issue.
ends. Yeah, and it never ends. And there's always one more person.
Yeah, but eventually, but the point is that there will always be one more person, and the kid is one of those people.
The kid is one of the first people.
No, he's the last person.
Yeah, I agree. Yeah, he's the last person.
He's one of the
correct.
last people, or he's one of the
I
current
agree.
people.
Okay,
I mean, like,
I agree.
Yeah. So
I
what's the issue?
I thought you meant in the back. I thought because
no.
there's always one more person that you need to ask for permission from.
The person has already given permission in the past days.
How? That's what I mean. How? Like you can't start it. Like you're just asserting that.
It doesn't start. That's the point. You're trying to prove that this is impossible, and you're just saying, "Oh, that's not possible." How is it possible? Like it's your job to show that it's not possible.
But you're asserting that it is possible.
I'm the one being agnostic. I'm saying, look, it could be possible, it could not be possible. So I'm keeping an open mind to the universe having an infinite past. You're the one saying that it's impossible, so you need to justify that.
That's true, but you're saying it's possible because it's possible.
I'm saying that unless I have reason to think it's impossible, then I should think it's possible, which is generally a good framework to have.
I don't know about that. I mean, I don't know about that. But your only critique to my thing is it's possible because it's possible. It
Well,
isn't. You haven't given like the.
My critique is that you haven't given an argument. You've just asserted premise 1 over and over again without giving an argument, right?
Well, I gave you. I think you're on it. With all due respect, I think you're just viewing it wrong because if it'll start at the number 0, you couldn't count an actual infinite into the future. You couldn't count an actual, and you couldn't count an actual infinite into the past. Correct?
I agree.
Okay, so let's just say 0 is the moment of your life.
Yep.
So then you couldn't count an actual infinite into the past.
Yeah, I couldn't count it. That doesn't mean it doesn't exist.
Okay, all right. I disagree. I guess we can maybe leave it there, but I disagree.
Sure. Okay.
So I appreciate the time. I mean, I don't know if there's more you want to discuss, but
that's fine. We can call it there.
Okay. All right. Thanks, man. Appreciate it.
Take care. I mean, like, it is what it is, right? All right, let's read some super chats. By the way, remember, I do have a Cash App, I do have a Venmo, so if you prefer not to send money over YouTube, that's fine. Shay did send $20 10 minutes ago for Too Busy Barely Listening Blind Support. I appreciate that, Shay. I appreciate your support regardless. Let me double check for Venmos. Okay, I don't see anything on Venmo, which is fine because I haven't made it super public yet. Let's read some super chats. From Michael James Rojas, I don't know what that is. 50 of something. Creationism is true, else quantum fluctuation ain't possible. That's an interesting take. I'd love to hear why you think that, but I guess we can talk about it in a minute. I'll bring you up next. From Garain with the $5. For the caller, imagine a flipbook. Now is the current page, but the other pages still exist. Yeah, I think he was saying that they're not times, they're spaces. From Chase Teaches Physics with the $5. If there is no past, then how are aliens 10 light years away watching me make poor decisions right now? True. You got it. From Christopher Sanford with the £5. Is there any theoretical relationship between the speed of light in a vacuum, which seems constant, and the possible smallest quantum of time? Well, yeah. The Planck time uses the speed of light in it, if I remember correctly. But I always have to double check this. The Planck time has a 1 over c squared in it, right? Is that? Let me just go look up the formula for it, because I can never remember it. Mm-hmm. Yeah, it's h over g, or hg times hg over c to the 5th, and then you take the square root of the whole thing. I can never remember these things. I just treat the speed of light as 1. From Dr. Fudge with the $10. His whole thing about not understanding the necessary relations between these moments is like saying he doesn't understand why the second floor of a house needs to be on the top floor of a house, I think. Yeah, that's a good analogy, actually. Definitely. From Tim Davidson with the $5. Any attempted change to the past has been made. I call it the theory of temporal inertia. Anything that has happened has a tendency to have happened. Yeah, this is called the Novikov self-consistency principle. From Just Rick with the $2, but have you considered boom? Oh, I haven't. From Frog Penguin with the $5, please just debate whether McDonald's or Burger King is better, please, I beg you. Sorry. Hacksent, you made a claim, but hide behind agnosticism when pressed. He explained why infinity is irrational. No, the point is he didn't justify the claim, right? He didn't justify the argument. He just asserted if an infinite past exists, then we should be able to count all of the past days. But he didn't justify that claim, is the point. And I'm like, look, I'm just being open-minded. Unless you can tell me why a thing should be impossible, I'm going to think that it's possible. All right, let's bring up Michael James, because they said something that, you know, they wanted to come up, or we could talk about it. So Michael James, you're on the live stream. How's it going? Michael James? You have to unmute yourself. Hello, Michael James. You wanted to... From your super chat, it sounds like you wanted to talk about the subject. So why do you think that creationism is true, or else quantum fluctuations aren't possible?
Well, because you are thinking that quantum fluctuation is the cause.
No, that's not what I think.
Okay, what is it?
Yeah, I don't actually know what the cause of the universe is. It's not my claim.
Okay, so what created the universe then?
I don't know if the universe was created.
Why would you think so?
I just told you I don't think. I don't know. I don't know whether or not the universe was created. This is something I don't know. I'd love to know. I'd love to figure it out. Sorry?
Well, I believe that it is created.
Okay, why should I think that? Why do you think that's true?
Because if we look around, there's evidence.
Like what? Existence? Yeah, I agree. I agree. Existence. By the way, if you could speak a little louder, that'd be good. I agree that the universe exists. Why should I think that that means it's created?
Because why would it be? Why would it exist if there's not a creator in it, right?
Do you think that the creator was created?
Well, the creator cannot be created because we are talking about God, right?
Okay, so you think that things can exist even if they're not created?
Yeah.
Okay, so why can't that apply to the universe?
Well, because God is the Almighty, so He created everything, right? And He is the source of everything.
Well, I know that that's what you believe, but why should I think it's true?
Well, because when we talk about creation, or when we talk about who created who, we are talking about time. And God is not bounded by time, so He cannot be created because He created time. Why would a God be?
By the way, your mic's still pretty quiet.
His creation. Yeah, sorry about that.
Go ahead.
About
Go ahead.
So when we talk about creation,
Oh, that's so much worse.
yeah, we're talking about time, right?
I can't understand anything you're saying anymore.
How about now?
That's fine.
Yeah, so when we talk about creation, or when we talk about creation, we talk about who created what, then we're talking about time.
Well, yeah, but why should I think that the universe was created at all?
What I'm saying is God created time. So why would he be dependent on something he created?
Well,
Right.
look, the question was just whether or not something can exist without being created. And it sounds like you're fine with that. If I consider
Yeah,
time to be a part
only-
of the
only
universe, then the universe isn't subject to time. Time is part of the universe. In which case, the universe wouldn't need to be created for the same reason that God wouldn't need to be created.
God cannot be created though.
Okay. Why should I think that
Because
the
he
universe
created-
can be?
Because he created time. So because you're in the universe.
I am
you're
in the
in it.
universe. Why should I
So
think
you're-
that
you're-
the
you're-
universe itself as a whole, the entirety of space-time, can be created?
Sorry, can you repeat?
Why
that?
should I think that the universe as a whole, the entirety of space-time, is the kind of thing that can be created?
Yeah, because it exists. There's why?
Yeah,
why
but
do we
but
even
it
call
exists.
why do
It
we
exists
even-
outside of time. Time is within the universe, not outside of the universe.
So even the talk about space time, we're talking about space and time. We're talking about space and time.
Yeah.
Why would it have to be space and time? Who created space and time?
It,
Because
it,
if
it space-time couldn't have been created, right? At least according to you, space-time couldn't have been created because space-time is not within time.
Yeah, space time is created.
No, it can't be created because it's not within time.
No, what? Sorry.
Space-time is not within time.
No.
So it can't have been created because it's not within time.
That's the problem. Space time is created by God.
I know that that's what you
And-
think, but I don't see why the universe has to have been created at all.
Why would you think so? It's very obvious. We exist.
I
There's
agree.
laws.
I agree. We exist. That doesn't mean that space-time was created.
Who created the laws then?
Who created? I don't think that laws are created by a lawgiver.
Okay, why?
Because they seem more like
Why-
descriptions than they do like rigid laws that like were enforced.
Space and time. Why is it? Why does it have to be space?
Why does it have to be? Why does it have to be? I don't know. Why did God have to make it this way?
That we don't know that because he's
Okay,
God,
so
right?
it sounds like neither of us know it. So it seems like you asking the question to try to get some incredulity out doesn't really do much.
No. What I'm saying is you are believing that the universe is not created, and I think that's a really big problem.
No, what I'm saying is that under your argument, under the argument that you've made, space-time is not the kind of thing that needs to be created in order to exist because it doesn't exist within time.
Sorry, can you repeat that?
Yeah, under the argument that you've provided for why God doesn't need to be created, despite existing, is that if a thing doesn't exist within time, then it doesn't need to be created. But the universe, the entirety of space-time, doesn't exist within time. So it doesn't need to be
I think
created.
There's a problem with that.
What's the problem?
Let's say God, outside of time, he
Mhm.
created time and space.
I understand that that's the belief, I know.
What's the problem with that?
I'm asking, look, I'm not saying that there's necessarily, I mean, we can get into the problem with that, and I think that there is a problem, but what I'm saying is that using that same argument, space-time is not within time. So space-time wouldn't need to be created in order to exist.
No, the only I said there's an exception. God.
Okay, why is
Actually, I
God an
don't believe- I
why
don't-
is
I
God
don't
an
believe
exception, and why can't this apply to the universe?
Actually, no. I think God. I said it wrong. God is actually not created.
Okay, so
You
why
could-
should I think
I
that God is an
believe that
exception, but the
I-
universe isn't?
You kind of tricked me into the first question where
Haha.
because you said God can if God can be created without a creator, right? I think God is not created.
I said that. I said so. Your argument for why the universe is created is because you said the universe exists. So by that same reasoning, if God exists, then God would have a creator. And now you're saying, oh well, that doesn't apply to God. So I'm asking, why does it not apply to God, but it does apply to the universe?
It's because of time. Time is when we say creator and created, we're talking about time.
I agree.
Why would you apply the time to God who created
Why would
the
you
time?
apply time to the entirety of space-time?
Why are you talking about time with space time? Space time itself is the time. I mean, time
No,
itself is
time is a part of space-time. Space-time itself is not in time.
What do you mean? Space time from the
That'd
word
be like,
space time itself.
it would be like saying that, okay, it'd be like saying that, what's a good analogy for this? Okay, so like an engine of a car. The engine is part of the car, right? So saying that space-time is in time would be like saying the car is in the engine.
No, yeah.
Okay, so the car isn't in the engine, space-time isn't in time.
Space time isn't in time.
Right.
Why would that be?
Because space-time is
Maybe
part of time in the same way
maybe-
that an engine is part of a car.
Yeah, yeah. So space, you say time is part of space time.
Yes.
That's correct. Yeah, because it's space time. God created the space time, and
We're not talking about God yet. We're trying to. I'm trying to get you to understand why under your reasoning, space-time, the entirety of the universe, space-time, doesn't need to be created because it doesn't exist in time.
That's confusing because we are talking about space time. Why would you need time to create space time?
Because you said that in order to create something, you need time.
Yeah,
And
but
so
the problem
so because God's outside of time, God can't be created. So I'm saying, well, if space-time's not in time, then space-time can't be created.
I think the ultimate problem here is that we are bounding God into time, and we are thinking.
I'm not
that he
talking
should
about
be
God at all.
using-
I'm trying to get you to understand why your own reasoning indicates that the universe doesn't need to be created. I'm just granting your reasoning. Your reasoning says that if something is not in time, then it doesn't need to be created even if it exists. I'm just saying, okay, let's assume that's true. The universe, the entirety of space-time, is not within time.
Why would you say that?
Because how can it be within something that's part of itself?
Yeah, imagine. Let's say let's remove the space. Just time. Let's create the time first.
Yeah, the entire timeline is not in time.
Why? I think that the problem here is that we are kind of measuring. Okay, let's not talk about God first. Okay. Time. Who created time then?
I don't think time is the kind of thing that can be created.
Well, I don't think so.
Why should I think that time could be created if it's not in time?
Yeah, because you are a human being who have a analytical mind bounded by time. Your mind works via time. And that's the problem because now you think that everything should be using time.
I'm literally not saying that. Can you repeat back to me what my point is? Perhaps what my argument is?
Okay. Yeah.
No?
Can you repeat? Sorry.
Yeah. My argument is that if something is, and this is what you said, by the way, if something is not in time, then it doesn't need to have been created. But the
Something
timeline
is not-
itself is not in time.
No,
So it doesn't need
the
to be
problem
created.
is- no, the problem is you are now thinking that time must have existed infinite, or must have existed, yes, existed from the very beginning. No, I don't know. You're thinking that time has already been there. Like, why? You're thinking that time is always there.
Why does it need to have been created if it doesn't exist in time?
No, sir, can you answer me first? Do you believe that time has been there?
I think that's a category error. I don't even think it makes sense to say that time has always been there. Time is a thing that exists. It has
Time is a
existence.
thing that exists. That has existence.
But it doesn't have existence in any sense in time because it is time. It doesn't exist in time, so it doesn't make sense to talk about how long it's existed.
Yeah, and that's the problem, because God is immeasurable, so that's why He can create the time. He created time. You can't say that God should be created, bounded in time.
What does it
Should be
even mean
created.
for time? What does it even mean to talk about how long time has existed?
What do you mean?
Yeah, me too. All right, y'all. I had to end it. It was a short one, but I mean, I had to end it. Also, I have to end the live stream. So everybody, thank you guys so much for watching. Let's read some super chats before we call it, and then we will call it a day. From Relax with Russell, with the $5, you wouldn't be able to count to 100 billion in your lifetime. That doesn't mean you can't have $100 billion. Yeah, there you go. That's actually a fairly good analogy. No allegedly Ian today. Oh. From Philo Dragon with the $10, Craig the Incredulous was so cringe, but thank you for being patient with him and calmly exposing his errors in reasoning. These old apologetic arguments are so nauseating sometimes. Well, I appreciate it. I do appreciate the support, of course, as always. I'm not good. Well, I won't dox you, but I appreciate that a lot. And yeah, I mean, like, there's so many arguments against the impossibility of a past infinite universe. I mean, like, B theory of time is just the easiest one, but even if we grant A theory, you still don't get anywhere. All right, so that is the live for today. Remember, guys, if you want to support me, there's a few ways to do it. One, you could just watch, you could share, you could subscribe, you could like, etc. These are all good ways to support me. But if you have disposable income, a better way to support me, perhaps, is to send super chats, send Venmos. I'll read your messages, of course, and it convinces me that these topics are worth doing and other topics are not. So if you like this topic, make sure to support me. If you don't like it, don't, I guess. In the meantime, I'm going to end the live stream here, and I will see you guys tomorrow for Ask a Physicist. So remember to stop on by and ask your questions.